It's time for the opening act. Here to start off our event is international speaker, author, and teacher Damian Boudreaux.
Good morning and welcome to the 21st Fixed Ops Roundtable. It's a great honor to start our conference today with an international speaker, author, probably best known as a teacher. Damian Boudreaux is here with us today to help kick off our event. Damian, welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Good morning. Oh my God, thanks for having me here. What an honor this is.
Damian, I cannot believe that there's a conference just on fixed ops. And I can't believe that it's 4 days long. And here we are kicking it off the 21st time. And it's just amazing what all this has become. And so many people who attend, dealers and retail people and managers. And we had you on the After Dark show over the summer to great acclaim and just so much good word out there about you.
Ted, it's all your fault this is put together. What a massive amount of work you and your team have done. So incredible. And I have a question for you, if you don't mind. Why are you doing this? Why did you do this again?
The first time I did it in May of 2019, I have a training company. I did it to stay relevant in the industry. And I thought that maybe we could do this once or twice a year and we'd get some fresh ideas and best practices and get people together and talk about fixed ops. And I didn't have any idea whether that was being done already or not, or if there's even a space for us in the industry. I'm doing it today because we've helped so many lives, including my own, okay? And all the people who come and speak here have grown. And it's just been amazing to watch, Damian, the transformation of people who've come in a year, 2 years, 3 years ago, and as their careers have progressed and what they've become. And it's just been a tremendous honor to give back to the industry that's given me so much and you so much over the last 40 or so years.
Yeah, I started off in a transmission shop. I went to work at a dealership in service, changing oil. Right. I screwed up and they talked me into selling after a while, and I sucked at it for 3.5 years. But the shame of our industry to take me as a salesperson who, if I'm really successful and sell 30, I make less money than an average service advisor. And we put all the accolades and the glory on the front end of the store, when the back end of the store is the stability and the rock and the foundation of everything profitable in a dealership. If you have a bad back end of your store, salesmen are miserable because they can't get their customer service. But if you have a back end that's incredible, they're ignored. And that's a travesty. We have to do a better job of acknowledging what's happening back there and the career path beginnings for so many people in our industry because of that ability to wash a car or pick a part. Or drive a delivery truck or go in the body shop and move, fix a bumper. That is an incredible gift. And fixed ops is the foundation for this business, and it gets no attention, no credit, no recognition, and it should.
And you speak just now to the career path of all the people in the industry, myself included, who started off in one of those positions at a young age, 19, 20 years old. And when they apply themselves, they can work their way up in this industry with not even a formal education or very little education and rise to the top and become the dealer and even that much more.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the Gilman family in Houston. Frank Gilman, the grandfather of Stacy and Jason, and he started off as a parts picker. That whole organization, that family, Jay Gould, all the great people that have come from that organization started off because a kid wanted to go to work somewhere and was told, this is the part number. And those people are freaks because they remember all those numbers. And that's where you go put it, right? And that's how powerful this department is.
And, you mentioned parts. When people say fixed operations, they typically think of service, right? They think of the technicians, the service advisors, the service drive, the quick lube, and parts does not get a lot of love. But recently, Damian, that's changed. There's a lot of focus now on the importance of parts, on inventory, how that parts inventory is as important as the used vehicle inventory, aging inventory. And I'm just amazed now at all the technology and the people and the processes and the career path that we spoke about earlier, that's being applied and focused on now at Fixed Ops. It's just amazing.
Yeah, and one of the greatest areas of opportunity for dealers right now, as it relates to parts, is during COVID. They had to. There's so many shifts in process and how we do things that parts and service, if they're not communicating well, and body shop with parts, there was so many changes in process over the last 3 years that now there's a struggle because nobody's discussing what changed, what's redone. It's almost like you need to really get everybody back in a room and say, what is our processes for cross vertical communications within the service world, right? And that's a big area of opportunity for dealerships in our industry.
So you asked me what my why. My why in doing this when we started was to stay relevant after many years in the industry. And my why today, now having done several years of these events, is to help others and to give back, and to do that in such a way that we put the focus on the people who work in retail, who work in the dealerships.
Yeah, it's the question that everybody in this audience should be looking at right now. Why are you here? I'm honored you're here. You're here to grow. You're here to help. How can you help your departments? How can you help your people? How can you help your customers? If you're on the front line, you're here because you're saying, maybe there's one thing I can learn to do better. Maybe there's two things I can take away from the next 3 or 4 days that make me go, oh my God. And look, here's something you need to do while you're here. If you're in here to get better, you need to talk about what you learned, because everybody's going to have a different perspective on how they heard what Ted or I or one of the plethora of brilliant speakers over the next few days. You're going to go, oh my God, how could I apply that to this dealership? And if you're a multi-point store, you might apply it here differently than over here at your Chevrolet store, from your Ford store, or your Honda store. This opportunity right now to take massive amounts of notes, starting with, why are you here? What's the outcome you want to get from this opportunity that Ted has pieced together and worked so hard to do? Your why for coming to work, your why for your people's reason for coming to work, your why for why the customer is coming to your dealership and your organization. All of these things are important. This why question gets overlooked in the mass chaos of a dealership. Stop right now. Why are you here? What's the outcome that you desire? Man, if I could get one thing from this, I would like it to be in my service department so it can accomplish this better, follow up better, recognition better, timing better, connection with each other better, employee retention better, employee connection better. Why are you here?
A lot of times we have a why, and as time goes on, we forget the why, or we forget about it. All right. And you've put the focus this morning to kick things off directly on the why. Everybody has a why. And it's probably best that we write down that why right now this morning and put it in writing. You know, I love the why, and I love the question, why are we here? And then you can probably take that out to a few more questions as well, Damian. I think.
Yeah, here's an easy one. Who are my customers and why are they here? Who are my customers and why should they be here? Who are my employees and why are they here? You know, you have to understand that if you're a forward looking to the customer driven, you got to understand there's many of reasons what they want and how they want it and what they need. And if you're not paying attention to that and then planning to address those needs, then you're just in a coma managing the next opportunity. And you're going to have issues if you're not intentional about what you want. And then you have to be at your best when they show up. And that's critical to success. It's development of your people that's key. You can have all the great processes, and if your people suck, I got great news. Your processes suck because they're delivered without intention.
We had on the show several times a good friend of yours, somebody you have mentored and continue to mentor, Ali Rita, okay, #1 automotive salesperson in the world. And he told us the story, Damian, how you took him from somebody who sold, and he thought he was doing a great job at 20, 30 vehicles a month.
Right.
You showed him there was life beyond that. Okay. Talk to us about that, because now he is the world's record holder and has just shattered and continues to shatter all records.
Yeah. So first of all, is it okay if I just let everybody have a copy of our book for free so they can just download it? And so how to sell 100cars.com. It's a free download. Just scroll down. I'm going to try to sell you the book when you first get on the site, but just go scroll all the way to the bottom and put your name and email in there, and we'll send you a copy of the book from Ali and I. But it's simple. This business is simple, right? You got to get good at being you so you can love and care for your community, right? And the goal of everybody in this room is to be okay with where you are, understanding where you are, and then aspiring to your next level. But before you can aspire to your next level, you first have to see what is that next level. And then you have to figure out, who do I have to be in integrity to accomplish that next level of success? And then what do I do? And one of the challenges with high achievers in our business is they get to this ceiling, right? This ceiling happens because everything they were taught to do to get to this high achievement level becomes the reason they can't get past the high achievement level. And I'll talk about it from the selling of cars perspective, right? What you were taught to do at 8, 10, 12 cars, when you get to 20 cars, some of this stuff is not important anymore. It's not the same. You have to evolve your business, your mindset, your processes, the way you think. You have to evolve. Why be in this business and the way you do this thing when you started off? You're doing it the same way 5 years from now. That's cray-cray. You want to find a way to grow your business. And that means when you get to a certain level, you have to say, what has to happen to improve? Where else can I improve? What else could I do to be more efficient? What else could I have to accomplish that? And just so you know where Ali and I right now are, 5 years from now, I'm not going to tell you what we're going to accomplish, right? But 5 years from now, we're already looking at what his business looks like 5 years. Now, last month, he sold 194 cars, right? Let me take that back. May, he sold 194 cars, right? Oh my God, what is that ain't the number. 5 years from now, it's exponentially more than that. But that's about evolution to go from 194. What are the processes, procedures, team, and everything to get to 210, to get to 220? And every time we get to another level, we have to break that level and go, all right, let's assume we can do it better. And every one of you should be doing that. If it's not broken, break it. Find a better way to accomplish the things that you're doing well now. Focusing on what you suck at means you're only going to get average at it. Focusing what you're doing great at and deciding how to get better at it, you'll become magnificent. That's where you make your money. Getting people to do what they do best is where you improve. Not getting me to be more organized or have a better handwriting. You're crazy. I'm never going to be good at those things. I'm going to be better at improved at visiting with people. So learn your people's strengths so you can throw coal on the engine that serves them best so they can look better with no effort.
You got Ali to believe in himself, and you've gotten a lot of people that I know to believe in themselves. Talk to us about that, because I think that was one of the early steps.
Yeah, really, that's a fallacy. It's not my fault Ali's good. If Ali sucked, it's not my fault either, right? Ali is Ali, right? I'm a messenger. I'm a teacher. I'm a coach. My job is to listen and ask great questions and then challenge their belief system. And their belief system says, this is how I think. And I say, is it possible you could think another way? And look, it's like the first car you ever drove was a blue Honda. And all of a sudden, every car on the road was a blue Honda. The more you see, the more you can accept, understand what's coming into your life. So the goal of me is to get you to expand what you see. So now it's not blinded. You don't have a blind spot anymore, right? So I have ways to Socratically get people to look intrinsically at themselves and the way they approach their life so they can step into that life congruently. And the person who's at the dealership is the same person at the grocery store. You don't have to put your mask on to be on the service lane. You don't have to put your mask on to go in the manager's office. All you are is yourself. And that's fine. I'm not perfect. I'm inadequate in a lot of ways, but I do have brilliance. Understanding what your gifts are allows you to shine those coins up and get them to be more valuable. And that's all I do. I just ask great questions. I just coach people. I see them better than they do, which allows me to ask the right questions so they can have permission to be okay with themselves, have permission to the thing they decided when they were in their 20s, this will never happen again. So you develop rules that when you're 35, those rules are holding you back. Those rules that you created were great for a 22-year-old or a 25-year-old. But for a 34-year-old, that's a limiting belief that's not going to allow you to be successful anymore. Same thing with people who have traumas in their teens that they're carrying forward, and in their 50s, they still live with the belief system of this trauma. That does not serve you going forward into your future. Ali had those traumas. He had those events. He had those crisis things that caused his brain to lock into a belief system. My job is just to help him to have permission to be okay with his belief system and develop a new one. That's what a coach does. And that's all I do.
That Socratic method of asking questions is really fundamental as well, beginning with the one that you asked this morning, the big why.
Yeah. Asking the HW5, I call it, how, what, where, when, why, and who, right? If you ask those questions about a lot of things you do, you'll rethink how you do things and how you are towards people. So getting those questions answered is important, but it takes you taking a breath and sometimes having a coach or somebody to take a breath with you to get you to look inward intrinsically, because that's where the magic is, inside of you, not outside.
Well, that's powerful. I know we all have belief systems, right? And you're right. They're rooted way in the back. Okay. From years ago, I mean, depending on the age of the person as well. And a lot of times we don't let go, right? We have thought of those and, accepted those as being the norm, yet you help people break free.
Yeah. Give them permission to be okay with letting that go. There's blessings in every curse, right? There's blessings in everything you do wrong. If you're in the car business, you are going to screw up. You are going to dent a car. Be okay going to the owner and say, I backed into a truck, right? Because eventually you are going to scratch a car. You're on the wrong planet to be perfect. So you might as well be okay with imperfect. On this planet, that's the way it works. So learn from your mistakes. Don't hide them. Accept them and say, and what else could I have done better? And don't be a victim, right? It's not somebody else's fault. If it was all my fault, what could I have done better, right? I don't need to be a victim of the person who is in my life and say it's F&I's fault, or it's the service manager's fault, or it's the tech's fault, or it's the used car department's fault, or whatever. It's my fault. What do I have to do to fix it? Now own the problem, fix it now, whatever it takes, and be the owner of your life in spite of everything around you, right? And that is the key to success, is to be the owner of your happiness.
I think every time I've spoken to you, Damian, you've asked questions, okay? Every single time you've asked me, for some fundamental answers, okay? To some very, very deep questions. And you caused me to pause and think, okay? Which does not happen every day. And I think I don't want to call it the magic, but I think that's part of the secret sauce here.
Yeah, everybody in this event needs to think and ask themselves questions, because there's so much opportunity for improvement over the next few days that people can go, oh my goodness, I can do that better. And what else could I do better? And how else could I think it through? And now is the opportunity for you to question, how in the world are we doing this? And why, when we built this in the 80s, was it a good idea? And we're still using it, right? We still think people think the same. They don't think the same. We have to re-question everything. And this opportunity to look in your mirror over the next few days and go, you know what? This is a stepping stone for the next 12 months to be absolutely incredible. Write down everything. Take good notes. What Ali didn't tell you is the first time we met, he did not want to be in that room. He was forced to be in that room, right? Now, I didn't know that. All I know is about 20 minutes in, I saw this kid right over here, and I noticed him writing down everything I was saying. And I'm like, oh, God, I'm pretty good today. The Bible of Damian, man, he was writing it all down, right? He still has those notes. And he says, let me tell you something. I wrote down everything. So this event, take notes. Make it a special part of a notebook you have or your remarkable pad, and take notes about everything you're getting, because there's gold that you don't want to miss. And use it to improve the people's lives in your organization and your customers' lives who are coming for your help. That's the key to everything that we do every day.
And one more thing, if I may.
Yeah.
A lot of times we look at things or occurrences in our lives, in business, personal life, and we see something that appear to be a misfortune, right? We look at something and say, oh, that quite didn't turn out the way that I had wanted it. All right. But you cause us to ask different questions and see a different potential outcome. Talk to us about that, because I think you mentioned it a few minutes ago. There's good in every one of these things that happen.
Yeah. Look at your life. Look at your life and recall the time that something was so bad, your heart was broken. This will never happen again. And you make this thing, this proclamation, this flag in the sand, and this moment in time that this is unacceptable, no more, enough. And you look at that date through the rearview mirror of time and you go, man, I learned so much from that. And in the rearview mirror of your time, as it gets smaller in the back, you go, man, that turned out to be a good thing. So the blessings that you get from the curses you experienced can happen faster if you accept that on this planet, things don't always work perfectly. And when they don't, that's where the gold is. The gold is in the abyss. It's in the darkness that you want to run from, but don't run from it. When you come out of the darkness and you come out of the magical misery tour, the hell that you went through, take the time to take a breath and go back into the abyss and start looking at what you left and what you could have learned and how else might you have handled it. And if it was all my fault, how could I have responded differently and thought differently? Because you're more centered at that moment and you're not in the heat of battle, in the amygdala hijack to fight, flight, or freeze, you'll make more intelligent opportunities to grow from that darkness. Go back into the abyss and then come out, and you take what you learned and you apply it to your new life. And then you can share it with others. And sharing what you learned from others is where the true growth happens on your journey, right? That ability to translate it to other earthlings to help them, right?
Damian, so powerful.
Thank you.
So if our audience wants to know more, I know you've got the book with Ali. Give us that information again. And you've also got a business that you run as well. You do coaching, you do mentoring, and in addition to speaking. And I see autotrainingacademy.com on the bottom of the screen here. Tell us, how do we get in touch with you? How do you help?
Well, autotrainingacademy.com is the name of my business, right? And that's my personal phone number on the thing, right? You can call me directly. So I'm not going to Auto Training Academy. No, you can get it. Good morning. Right? The next thing is I'm in a new beginning in my business. I have been accused of being a visionary. And 20 years ago, I was saying, relationships. You don't talk to customers who don't know you, like you, and trust you. Only talk to your community. Repeats and referrals are crumbs. It's the people who know you from church and from your community and who you went to school with. And so I started that message, and now everybody talks about relationships. Damn good job, Damian. Time to move on. My new vision is that when Boudreaux comes to your dealership to learn how to change oil, as dealers, what we have is a learning management system to teach Boudreaux how we do that, right? And I'm just beginning this, so I'm learning it as we go, right? So, but the goal is we have an opportunity to create job description, career path. Look, I'm hiring you to be somebody who wash cars, but I'd like you to be a service manager. I'd like you to be a master tech. I'd like you to be a C tech. I'd like you to be a B tech. I'd like you to be a used car tech. I'd like you to be at the express lube. I'd like you to do this, right? So having this ability to view dealer kids should not be the only ones with a career path. We should all have the ability to have a career path. So right now I'm just beginning, and I'm going to start off with a few dealerships. I'm already working with a couple, right? That I'm just going to take my time and develop this new way. And hopefully within the next couple of years, we have every process in every vertical of the dealership digitized. So when a dealer says, I'm going to go buy this other dealership, here's every process we have and how we teach it. Here's our values. Here's our character. Here's our culture. This applies to everything we do in the dealership. And of course, with that, I do sales training, and I don't suck at that.
Wow. What a way to kick off our event. Damian, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. Good luck, everybody. Man, I hope y'all get a ton of stuff. There is no excuse for you to leave this not a better earthling. So good luck and have fun, and it's great meeting everybody. I'm really appreciative, Ted.
The teacher and mentor to the best, everybody. Damian Boudreaux here with us today, kicking off our event at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
These are the best moments when stress fades away and life can be enjoyed to its fullest. And helping people connect to these moments, that's what you do. Every day. Helping them find the car that's just right for them with an easy flow from website to showroom to financing. Ensuring that their car runs safely by sending reminders to show you're thinking of them and scheduling service that fits their busy lives. You're even helping keep their personal data protected. So times like these are worry-free. And we're here, behind you, every step of the way, through relationships built on years of listening and understanding. We bring the needed strength, knowledge, and experience to give you, our customers and partners, real peace of mind. Through our technology, we unify dealers, manufacturers, and software developers, sharing expertise and boosting collaboration for everyone's benefit. And by envisioning a future of innovative solutions, open platforms, and shared outcomes, we can shape our industry for years to come with the experiences consumers want. We don't take this unique opportunity for granted. The chance to do something truly special, to work at the heart of this industry, connecting it at every level, and taking it to new heights. We make the connections that move you. So together, we can create more moments like these.
Help the Fixed Ops family fight back with Ted Ings and Michelle McLain.
Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. Michelle McLain is the marketing genius behind the Fixed Ops Roundtable. What a lot of people don't know is that she's also hard at work on charitable causes and making sure that we do the right thing within our community. She's helped build that community. Michelle, welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Thank you, Ted. Thank you so much for having me. And yes, giving back is absolutely at the forefront of everything that we do. Many of you see my green hearts all over social media, and you see my We Rise Together hashtag. And that's something that's so incredibly near and dear to my heart. You know, there's a thing that people say in life. They say that a person needs just three things to truly be happy in this world. And that's someone to love, something to do, and something to hope for. And I have to tell you, Ted, I have never gotten so much of all of three of those things by being a part of our incredible automotive industry and being able to give back. We've done so much over the last few years, both in and out of the automotive industry, but most importantly with the Roundtable. And so it's just truly a blessing to be a part of such a wonderful event and to be around like-hearted people that truly want to make a difference in this world and give back both in and out of our communities. And why don't you tell us about what we're doing this year as our fundraiser for the Roundtable, and maybe give us some insight as to why it's so important, not just to you, but to our automotive industry as a whole.
Several months back, I think it was in June, thereabouts, our great brother, Shawn Butler, who's been involved with so many of the Fixed Ops Roundtable events and has always been there for panels and recordings. And Michelle, even last minute things, I would call Shawn and say, hey, we've got a panel coming up. Can you be on it? He would say, sure. When is it? I'd say in about 20 minutes. Can you make it? He would always, make the time to do that. And we're greatly appreciative of his knowledge and wisdom and mentorship, and he's a great teacher in the industry. When we learned he was ill, we didn't quite know how ill at the time, but it became evident when he shared some photos of how he rapidly lost a lot of weight this year. And we typically, in the fall of every year, do a charitable event to give back, and we've done that for various cancers over the past few years with a lot of success. Leukemia and Lymphoma Society comes to mind for the last two. And we thought that this year it wouldn't be quite as formal because we have now a more urgent call to action for Shawn Butler, not only for Shawn, but for Shawn's family as well. Shawn's wife, his children, he's got a little girl, 6 years old as well. And Shawn has given so much to the community that we thought that we would rally around Shawn beginning in the summer. And now here we are going into the fall, and his family, okay, because they are going to be faced and are facing a lot of medical bills that are not covered by the insurance. He's got insurance, of course, health insurance through work, but with this type of advanced cancer that he's gotten, you may want to speak to that as well. The cancer has advanced so quickly that he's had to go through chemotherapy, double doses of chemotherapy, radiation, an emergency surgery, and it's really been very taxing, not just financially now on his family, but mentally as well.
Oh, absolutely. And we all love Shawn, and we're sending up so much love and prayers, not just to Shawn, but his family as well. And, I just want everybody to take a moment and really think about what you would do if that was you, if that was your family, because I know that, me personally, I've experienced a lot of tragedy in my life, as many of us have, but there's nothing so trying as going through circumstance like this that you truly have no control over. And I think more than anything, obviously we're raising money right now because we really do want to help Shawn as much as we can. And although we can't take the entire burden off of his family, obviously with the emotional overwhelm, what we can do and what we have always done as an automotive community is we've done whatever we can to give back. And so not only do I want to encourage people, of course, you can, of course, if you want to help, you can donate today at fixedopscares.org. That's fixedopscares.org. But beyond that, I just want to encourage all of you to really, like I said, think about emotionally where that might put you. And I want to just send so many messages of hope and love and positivity to Shawn and his family. So if you can find it in your heart today, beyond just donating to our cause, I would love it if you guys would go find him on social media. Just send him your heartfelt well wishes and prayers, because as I said at the beginning of the quote, that we really just need those three things in life. We need someone to love, we need something to do, and we need something to hope for. And we, I believe, as a community have all found a lot of this with inside our automotive industry. You know, Ted, so often I think that our industry gets painted kind of in a negative light, if you will, obviously, you know, with the media and things like that. And what I really wanted to do this segment today was I wanted to show people who we truly are as a community. We are a group of all different people coming from all different backgrounds, all walks of life. But one thing that I would say the majority of us in the automotive industry share is we have a heart for other human beings. And there are so many superhumans in this community. And Ted, you know, you get a chance to see that firsthand every single time that we do these events, and maybe just kind of share some of the history that we've had with our community and our sponsors, our dealers, and how people really truly have stepped up to not only embrace each other here, but how they're embracing Shawn as well.
Shawn Butler had a post in late August announcing that he was going to have an emergency surgery on September 1. And there's been a big outpouring of, you know, comments and, you know, people supporting him. And I saw one of the comments, Michelle, and it really touched my heart, was from a gentleman named Leonard Belavia. Leonard Belavia, as you know from the Fixed Ops Roundtable, is the senior partner at BelaviaBlattDealerLaw.com. He's a big part of the Roundtable. And Leonard Belavia said, Shawn, you can beat this because I've beaten it. I had a similar diagnosis several years ago, and he did. And he said, I beat the odds, okay? And you don't know how strong you are, but I do. And he said, you are going to beat this. You're much stronger than this cancer. And Len Belavia in 2016-17, although it was a different type of cancer, obviously prostate cancer, had a life-changing experience where he was diagnosed terminal cancer, okay, and started selling parts of his real estate because now he was going to have to close his practice. They gave him 6 months to live, okay, and it was, I mean, earth-shattering. I remember reading the article in Automotive News about this as well, and things turned around for him, okay. And Len Belavia today is cancer-free. And Len Belavia had something of a miracle that happened along the way that was not expected, and decided that he would start a charity to raise money for prostate cancer. Dealers versus Cancer has a car show every fall in upstate New York where he raises some money. And when we first met him as a sponsor on the Fixed Ops Roundtable, he told us about that. And when we brought Jay Leno on the show in 2021, we said, that's the charity we're going to raise some money for. Would you help us? And he said, yes. And I remember Jay coming on the show making a lot of fun of that because it was called Dealers versus Cancer. That was the initiative that Len had set up. And Jay Leno said, let me think about that. Dealers versus Cancer. Okay, I'm not sure which one I could go right there. But, you know, speaking to what you just mentioned, that the auto industry has traditionally had not the best image over the years. But Jay made a lot of fun of that. He worked himself for a Ford dealer in Massachusetts when he was young growing up. And he spent about 25 minutes on the show talking about, you know, how he got fired as a young person working on a lot, you know, by the used car manager, and told the whole story and helped us raise a lot of money for that charity. And it made me think, Michelle, you know, wow, we probably didn't ask for, you know, enough donations that time, right? Because we didn't realize that we would actually would get Jay Leno, and that we actually would be able to raise money and people would give money for this. So it opened my eyes. And you've been involved with many other things. There've been other charitable efforts. I think of Frank Lopes, and this was not a life or death situation, but I remember their son's private school was closing, had announced that, and on a Sunday in the winter, maybe 2 years ago, we did a marathon recording. You remember, I think everybody had like 15 or 30 minutes, and we had to come on there and, you know, talk about frank and talk about the charitable aspects. And, you know, I gave money and we donated money, and that was to help keep a private school open in New Jersey. So even little things, you know, like that, which are big things. Okay. It was a great school. And we were successful in that. And then, of course, you know, all the things that we've done on the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, and how many people in the automotive industry that we didn't realize were affected by cancer and by leukemia. Some great dealers, some great big names in the industry. And I've never wanted to talk about myself being afflicted by that, you know, but I did. And I'm glad I did, because in meeting Dr. Liu, the president and CEO of the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, he asked me what type of cancer I had, and I told him, and we had him back, I think, 2 times in a row. And he said, you know, there's a new FDA approved therapy. Not won't work for everybody, but you've been on this other thing that I had told him, this other FDA approved. He goes, why don't you ask your doctors about this form of a Star Wars therapy and see if you would qualify for that, see if you fall into that bracket, because it might actually cure you. And I had never thought about that. And I mentioned it to my doctors. And a few months later on my regular visit, they said, you know, we want to put you on that therapy. We think that might work for you. And, you know, here I am today, never having felt better. So that never would have happened without the Fixed Ops Roundtable. So when we hear about Shawn Butler being ill and sick and supporting his family, and these stories, Len Belavia, like I just mentioned, and so a lot can happen, okay? And a lot of good things can happen from a lot of people praying together, leaving positive comments that Shawn loves to see, of course, raising money. And as you've mentioned, not just money, but other things that could help the family as well.
No, I couldn't agree with you more. You know, a lot of people don't know the specifics of what I do. In a nutshell, I'm a brand strategist, and, you know, I help businesses and I help solopreneurs brand themselves to win. That's my tagline. But what most people don't understand is that a very, very big part of that, and at the core of that, is getting people to tell their story. You know, I have this saying, and I've shared it many times before, especially on social media, that my why is what I call just one. It's literally a phrase that every single day I wake up and I say, God, just put one person in my path that my story or one of my client stories can really make an impact and change somebody's life. And the reality is, Ted, that we can't save the world. You know, there are so many things that go on in this world that are outside of our control, but we all have the power to save just one or to change just one life. And when you share your story, especially like you did, Ted, and like Leonard did, and so many other people, I think that really brings us back to kind of ground zero, where we can all say, listen, this is the thing that ties us together as human beings, because we all go through things. Every single one of us, we're not without fault, or we're not without things that are going to happen in our lives. And when we're able to truly just come together, share our stories, and lift each other up during those difficult times, I think that's really what gives other people the will to keep fighting and to keep going, because it's so easy to give up, right? It's so easy when we go through a down spell or a tragic thing in our life. It's so easy. I went through it myself, to just say, okay, I quit. I call uncle. I'm giving up today because I don't want to fight anymore. And when you have people that rally around you and support you and pour into you and share their stories, it then gives you that hope to just keep going. And I said I wasn't going to cry on this, but this is something that's really so very, very, very dear to my heart. And so I'm just calling on every one of you that are watching this today, our friends in automotive. Maybe you've gone through something like this yourself. I just ask that you would dive deep into your heart. And please, you know, like I said, it's not about the money, but whether you have $1 or $10 or $1,000 or whatever it is that you have that you can give to help Shawn and his family during this difficult time, we would absolutely love and appreciate you for going to fixedopscares.org and doing that. But beyond that, like I said, I just want you to see on the surface that we are a community, an amazing community of amazing, amazing human beings. And please, you know, whether it's supporting Shawn right now, or supporting your coworker or a manager or your HR person, or even if it's a friend in your life that's just going through a difficult time right now, that is the thread that ties us all together. So please just think about that. And kindness is free. Go out today, help somebody else, give somebody a shoulder to lean on, because you just never know how it's going to change somebody else's life.
Thank you, Michelle. Everybody, on the screen, you could see fixedopscares.org. If you would, please donate whatever you can there to help Shawn Butler and his family at this time.
Yes, please do.
You know that feeling when a wave hits you? Not just the ocean, but the waves of sound, light, information. All these waves carry energy. And when you amplify that energy, it builds and grows. It becomes stronger, louder, and faster. Without this energy, there is, well, nothing. What does the wave of your dealership look like? What about our industry? What can we do to create more energy and continue moving forward? I'm Chris Walsh, president of Reynolds & Reynolds, and I want to personally invite you to the 2023 Reynolds Retail Summit, where we will amplify automotive through a 2-day event dedicated to learning, growth, and pushing all of us forward. Reimagine your current processes through workshops and presentations led by industry experts. Discover how to overcome barriers to achieving maximum profitability and connect with other top-performing dealers, leaning on our collective experiences. Join us at the Reynolds Retail Summit this September at the world-famous Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Space is limited, so register now to secure your spot. I look forward to seeing you there.
Popping up next in our lineup is Marco, the most famous technician in America, as he tells us the story of how the Fixed Ops Roundtable got its start.
Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. I'm Sarah Vantine, and I have with me some very special guests, Ed Roberts, Tully Williams, and another person that I'm excited to announce, Marco, one of the most famous technicians. Ted, you wanted to ask some questions?
Sarah, I would say arguably Marco Zwanenburg has become the most famous technician in America. Marco, on behalf of the Fixed Ops Roundtable, we want to thank you for all that you've done, and take us back to just a couple of years ago, how the Roundtable got started, because you were extremely instrumental in making that happen.
Well, thank you, Ted. First of all, it's been a pleasure to work with all you guys and see this grow to where it's became. First of all, you want to get something done, take me out to lunch, but no pizza. Ted will tell you all about that. Funny enough, it was in April, I believe, of 2019 that Ted and I, we just got started on LinkedIn, and he texted me, so like, hey, I'm going to be in Orlando. How far of a drive is that for you, since I live in Naples? I'm like, oh, a few hours, I'll come up and meet you. So we did. We had lunch, we talked about the business, and we came up with this thing called the Roundtable. Well, we didn't really know it was going to be the Roundtable at that point, but a group of industry professionals working with industry professionals. So basically, all of us from all ranks, F&I, sales, service, parts, talking with each other and sharing our knowledge and our passion for the industry, the dealerships, and how can we just make it all better? How can we make everything flow? And here we are, 4 years later, Ted, back in Orlando.
Sarah, what Marco hasn't mentioned is that when we got together for lunch a little over 4 years ago in Orlando, Florida, I was kind of on the fence with doing this whole Roundtable thing. Marco, I had told you that I wasn't sure that people would even come to such an event.
And they did. And March. Oh, they keep coming. Remember the first little one in your office in New York?
Yep. So Marco Zwanenburg flew up to New York in May of 2019. We held the first Fixed Ops Roundtable in my boardroom, and that was the very beginning of what has become now many, many, many events. And Marco, if it's okay, I want to ask Tully. Tully, how did you become involved with the Roundtable after that?
You know, when I saw that first one, it was in New York, so it was pretty far from us on the West Coast. He luckily came out to the West Coast, and your second one was in Beverly Hills. And Ted and I go way back to our John Anderson Chevrolet, where he came in and trained us on his walk-around process in the driveway. And I was super excited to see him back in there. I'm thinking, oh, my God, I got to get to this. We did some messaging. He invited me down for that great event, and it was a lot of fun. I got the best work. I got the best speech award, which I was so happy about.
The very first best practice award that Tully Williams won. And Marco, another thing is that I invited Tully to speak, but when he got up there and started talking, I wasn't sure who he was because I had never seen this type of energy and charisma from Tully Williams.
You know, spot on. Hours is what it's all about. As you know, we look at our technicians like Marco's, is that we are here to help drive hours, and that was my message so long ago. And look at today, how you're showing off the fixed ops department, starting on these roundtables. It is just an unbelievable job, Ted, and can't thank you enough.
And you became involved maybe an event or two later in Las Vegas. Tell us about that.
I was on a podcast. I was frequently on a podcast with Owen Moon. And at that time, you was known as Mr. Social. and then that podcast, Owen says, have you ever met Ted? And I said, Mr. Social? And he said, yes. And, no, I haven't. 10 minutes later, I'm on the phone with Mr. Social himself. And the rest has been history. I was at the one in Las Vegas, the last one that was live before we got struck with the COVID bug. Mm-hmm. And then we converted and switched to digital, and it's just been ongoing from there.
Yeah, so we're very grateful to Owen Moon for the introduction to you at Roberts, and that's when you first came out. And Sarah, as I recall, that was the very first time that you and I met as well.
Yes, it was. It was a LinkedIn message from Roger Conant, actually, that really connected us and had that event. And it's funny because Ed and Tully and I had met each other in Orlando before at a fixed ops conference. And then it was really amazing to get to connect with them again at the Fixed Ops Roundtable. And it's been so exciting to see the developments and how it's grown.
So, Marco, Tully has a saying that he wants his technicians to go home rich and tired, all right? What opportunities have come up for you with the Roundtable professionally and personally in the last several years?
Well, as you remember the little video you asked me to make, what has the Roundtable done for you? On one hand, and this is where the two hands came in. On one hand, professionally, I'm still fixing cars, saving the world one car at a time. On the other hand, the Roundtable has given me the opportunity to become the voice of technicians all over the country. What is keeping us down? What is irking us? And it's been things that people didn't think about. It's not the money. I've said that, and it blew the mind of some people. It's not, you can pay me $1,000 an hour. If I need pills to get to work in the morning, not doing it. Culture, guys. We talk about that.
Yes, we do.
Support, everything that comes through it. So for me, it has become such an instrumental part of my life at the Fixed Ops Roundtable to carry the message from technicians and make it better for technicians, managers, the dealership, everything all together.
And Tully, Marco's work on the Roundtable has led to panels that include technicians and best practices for technicians. And it's really, I think, helped elevate the technician in our industry.
You know, we needed that voice. You know, a lot of times you have managers talking about do this, do that. But you know what? Having a voice of a technician talking about the hardship they do, right? They're in the shop, busting their knuckles every day, trying to produce those hours, do those great diagnoses, of course, great tech videos and inspections and make those recommendations that we'd sell our family members. It all starts with a technician, and it's so great to have Marcos be that voice to talk about that side of the business. And of course, Ted, make sure we can talk about it at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Ed, talk to us a little bit about technicians and the importance of them having a voice. I know it's something that you do second nature at Bozard Ford Lincoln, but talk to us industry-wide about the technicians as well.
Well, we're in retail, and retail we have inventory, and inventory for our service departments is our technicians. It's the hours that they bring to the table, and we need to be engaged with our inventory. We need to be connected with them, and we need to understand what makes them tick, what their purpose is. And if we understand what their purpose is, then we can enhance their elements at work.
Yeah, I love it.
Ed, you're spot on. I think that if you talk about, when you look at a fixed ops department and you talk about hours every day, which I do, probably too much, but what it does is it focuses everybody on the inventory, like Ed said. We sell hours. Parts helps us sell hours, right? But without everybody to do their job, we can't sell those hours. So it really starts with the technician showcasing that capacity, showcasing their abilities to make those great recommendations and diagnoses, and then showing those wins at your store. which means the parts department, the service department, everybody at the store wins.
Tying it all together.
Tie it all together, spot on.
And Sarah, the conversation has evolved so much. I'm amazed. Tully, at his recent pop-up event, one of the things we did with the technicians was focus on those recommendations, on the videos that technicians send out to the customers and improving those. So Sarah, I think the sky is the limit where we go with the technicians and getting them involved with these events.
Oh, absolutely. And it's so exciting to have a voice like Marco's representing so many different facets of the service department and the need for our customers to have better experiences too.
Where does that voice come from there, Marco?
Well, this cute little... Originally, this voice hailed from the Royal Kingdom of the Netherlands. To be exact. And no, I do not have wooden shoes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I'm excited to see Ed and Marco and Tully where this goes. It continues to evolve. Marco, we're very grateful to you for helping start the Fixed Ops Roundtable, one of the founding members and getting it started.
It just needed a kickstart, and we did it.
Yeah, and here we are again.
Here we are again.
Here we are.
Yeah. And you know what, Tully and Ed and Sarah, I'm grateful to all of you because you helped us take us through a very difficult period in the automotive retail industry. So on behalf of the entire retail community, thank you for all that you do.
Well, Ed, you brought Fixed Ops to the top, and I tell you, you have done an incredible job for all of us here today to talk about Fixed Ops and make it Fixed Ops great again. Can't thank you enough.
Absolutely. Ed Roberts, everybody, Marco Zwanenburg, Sarah Vantine, Tully Williams here at the Fixed Ops Roundtable. Stay with us. We have a lot coming up here at the third pop-up event at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
You might have noticed that the Fixed Ops Roundtable is on the move, and that's because we are now hosting pop-up events. We are on our way to a dealership near you with spontaneous events in amazing dealership spaces to highlight the hardworking people in retail service, parts, and dealership-wide. Stay up to date with where we are headed next by following the Fixed Ops Roundtable on social media.
So being a legacy automotive retailer, we've used a number of different companies over the years to help us train our people and educate our people on everything from sales process to customer service to you name it, anything relating to retail automotive. But in today's world, particularly since COVID, we really set out to try to find a partner that had a much more progressive, contemporary approach to automotive sales, automotive service, customer relations in general. And when we did that, our research led us to the folks at Quantum 5.
Anything that you can do consistently the same way gets better. So what Quantum gives us the ability to do, or has taught us how to do, is follow a very specific framework that delivers a very specific result every time. And that has been invaluable both to our veterans that have been in the business longer than me and the people that we're hiring new. Quantum came into the store as a partner. They've executed on that on every call, every interaction. And what our veteran staff finds to be the most beneficial is they get to continue to learn.
We know that Quantum is more than a vendor, they're a partner. They're actually a part of our business, a core part of our business and our daily processes. When I got into the car business many, many years ago, it was about control this, control the customer, control this. Well, now customers have as much information as dealers, so now it's more about controlling the process, understanding the customer. And that's what Quantum brings to the table. It allows you to have control of a process, understand your customer and your customer's needs, and deliver the relevant information that they need to make that informed decision, ultimately in purchasing a car, but starting with gaining that critical appointment. Quantum puts our client advisors on a pathway to prosperity. Our newer advisors see our seasoned advisors and the success they're having, and the fact that they're bought into the system and they've been on this system for years shows the new client advisors that if you buy in similarly, you're going to yield the same results, if not better. I can't speak enough to what Quantum has meant to our business. and to the growth and development of our client advisors.
These folks have got the flower power. It's the AutoMax TechVengers panel.
Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. It is time for the AutoMax Recruiting TechVengers panel. Our great friend Joe Lockhart is here with the A-list of Fixed Ops. Joe, what a lineup you've got here today.
Absolutely, Ted. Thanks as always for having me. And we've made the decision here today. We're so famous. The TechVengers panel is so famous, and we have so much to talk about that we're not doing introductions anymore. Everyone knows who we are. They know why they're here. So I'm jumping right in.
All right. I know you got a great topic tonight. I'm going to get out of the way, and I'll see you on the other side.
Thanks. Appreciate it, Ted. All right, so welcome everyone. Good to see all you guys as always. I've used an analogy here on the panel a few times. I love sports, big sports guy, and I've used that treating your team of technicians as a baseball team analogy a few times. You have your farm team, got to be building that pipeline. Got to have the apprentice techs. You got your starters. Maybe your B-level techs, your B+ guys. You got your utility infielder that does a little bit of everything and can sub in a pinch when you need them. You got your ace, your master techs. I was reminded recently by our good friend Marco Zwanenburg that we're going to talk to here in a minute that I may have left out one very important part of the tech team, and that is your grizzled veteran, if you will, that is possibly a little bit past his or her prime, but still brings a lot to the table, provides a lot of value, and deserves to and wants to still be a part of that team. So today I want to talk about those individuals. And first and foremost, of course, talking about their value and the importance to the team, but also keeping with our own ongoing theme here. I always like to bring it back a little bit to retaining those individuals and, of course, still attracting this type of individual for your dealership, service department, et cetera. So, Marco Zwanenburg, I like to start with you, and I know this is a important topic to you. It's near and dear to your heart, and I like to get the tech's perspective. And you kind of blew my mind because apparently, I don't agree with this. You consider yourself to be one of these old technicians. I think you're still in your prime, but let's go ahead and make that assumption that you are an older technician. What are some of the challenges that you see yourself facing now and maybe in the next 5 years, or some of the things that you maybe have to overcome at this point in your career as one of those more veteran technicians?
I think the biggest issue is that I consider myself a veteran technician, a dinosaur, if you will, because I 26, 27 years under my belt. I started out with syncing carburetors, setting dwell angles. That was how I got into the field. That's how I fixed cars with tools instead of computers. So what we have nowadays, the technology is moving at such a rapid pace. Me and other veteran technicians out there, like there's some great ones that we see daily on LinkedIn. We can give you 8, 9 different ways to remove a broken off stud or a rusted off bolt. But cloud diagnostics, what is this? It's like now all of a sudden my diagnostics are on the cloud. What is this all about? So even though we still have the capability of the actual physical mechanical work, even though, yes, our bodies are deteriorating as well, but it is getting so hard to keep up with the technology. It is moving in such a fast pace. If you just look at your phones and how they integrate with the vehicles, for us, the older generation, to decide whether or not this is actually like user error because it wasn't explained to them how their phone interacts with the car, or if there's an actual problem. So in long term, that leads to we find it less and less fun to show up at work. Our income is doing this,
We're getting frustrated. We're starting to look at different fields. We're starting to look at independence. And taking our years and years and years of experience, which at the end of the day, it still comes down to nuts and bolts. We take all that experience, all the how-to and know-how with us, and not just when it comes to fixing cars, but running time management, juggling cars around and make the best out of the 1 or 2 bays that you got, make the best out of all the hours in the day that you got, so we can go home rich and tired, right, Tully? Instead of, go home broken, frustrated. So herein lays the problem. So what can we as an industry do to support guys like myself and older ones that are not ready to retire yet, because we still like what we're doing. We have a lot invested in what we're doing, both experience-wise and tool-wise. But how can we as an industry tend to these guys?
Right. So you hit on a couple of things. I want to talk about leaving the industry altogether, because we see a ton of that. We hear a lot of that, and I'm going after those same ones that, I'll see a job history and it's 10 years dealership experience, and all of a sudden we're working for a municipality, we're working for an independent shop, like you said. And when I have those conversations with them, we might not get the whole story. Maybe that is part of the whole story there, that they feel that things are, I won't say moving too fast, but moving in a direction that they don't want to go into. You mentioned something. Money, obviously, we all need it. It's very important. And we've talked about flat rate on here and some of the challenges of flat rate. And we've all kind of addressed that a big part of that flat rate problem is in the diagnostic stage, where you're not getting paid the amount of time that it takes to do the diagnostic work a lot of the time. Do you feel that's where a lot of the technology clash is coming in when you are trying to make a diagnosis at the early stage of the repair?
I think money is secondary. Again, when it comes to this, I think money is secondary. I think the bigger problem is the overall frustration that we're not making the money, but we're having such a tough time. I mean, let's face it, from the moment that I started working in cars to where we're at now, we went from, a 2-master schooner to the Starship Enterprise in a matter of like 20 years. If you look at what happened technology-wise. I was actually just talking with my shop foreman today about codes 0170 and 0172. Back in my days, you threw a mass airflow sensor in the car, it was fixed. Nowadays, I haven't replaced the mass airflow sensor in years. So now I need to get the pico scope out and look at some wave things. And I'm like, I'm looking at waves in the clouds? What am I, on the beach here? So it's the frustration that we're trying to learn. And just as we have something under the belt, how fast manufacturers push out these cars. Here's the next one with the next level update on everything. And now we're again like, oh my God, it's like, okay, I just can't anymore. I just can't.
I gotcha. So and we have 5 very established and highly respected leaders in fixed ops in our industry with us. And I want to talk to them, and I want to hear some of the things they're doing and some of their ideas and suggestions. But I want to kind of put you on the spot as well. What are some ideas you have from the tech's perspective of how we can, try to overcome this and get things back online?
Well, we're always talking about, growing our own. But how about reversing that? Like, we can teach the new ones coming in, how to use the tools, how to work the car, how to, just the nuts and bolts, the plain old linear working on a car. But how about having some of these younger kids that came straight out of trade schools that have worked with the latest and greatest? Show me how to set up a picoscope, for example. Show me how to use a sync wave or a square wave versus what I used to. I used to still have an analog multimeter in my toolbox, for crying out loud. People nowadays go like, oh my God, what is that? Like, yeah, just like a ringtone. You'll never understand. But, like half the younger generation that just came out of school, but is trained on all this new stuff, have them inform us. But then us dinosaurs, the ones that don't know, we have to curb our, like, oh, you're young and I know it all. We cannot be prima donnas about it. We have to be humble and accept that knowledge. Just as we're trying to teach them, they can teach us. It can all be done in a house.
Sure.
So a little training that way.
And I think it's still, and I'm going to kick it around the room here in a second. Thank you, Marco. That was very insightful. Really appreciate that. We keep coming back to culture. We keep coming back to culture. Some of the stuff that you are hitting on comes back to people actually caring about the other people that they work with, instead of it just being, well, I'm doing my thing, you do your thing. I don't care what you have going on. I'm here to make my money. If you do it the right way and you're hiring people that give a crap about the other people that they're working with, you create that environment where somebody's willing to and wants to and is motivated to help someone else, and vice versa. Take advice, admit where they have weakness. I mean, that's a tough one right there. Grown men saying, hey, I can't do this. I don't know what the hell's going on. Like that's tough right there. So just hiring the right person that can be empathetic, can admit when they have a weakness or need some help really goes a long way.
Absolutely.
All right, Mike Weldon, I'm going to start with you. You heard all of Marco's complaints, beefs, laundry list of things that he feels need fixed. And obviously, we come here, we try to fix as much as we can. What are some things that you guys have done for some of your older techs? And I think, Marco, you hit on a big one with ongoing training and had some great ideas for how to facilitate that without slowing down, the actual product that you guys are providing for customers. What are some ideas or things that you have done in the past to get your older techs up to speed and continue their education?
So first off, I want to put Marco at ease. I don't call us dinosaurs because I am of that later vintage. You're a senior in your craft. Okay.
Expert.
You bet. So here's what we did. And because I fit that model of car that's a little bit older and it's still carbureted, just so everybody knows, is that we took our senior technicians and those were the first ones we invested in and put them back through school. I've got technicians now that are later in their career that are now masters and senior master technicians that are able to stay up with the younger technicians that are now coming into the field that know the new technology, but they don't understand the old technology, which they think they know everything, which now I've got a nice mix because now I've got everybody communicating with each other because everybody's now helping each other. Because you got to eliminate that, eliminate that break that you're going to get because the younger guys think the older guys can't get it done, and you know how that works. So first off, I'm out there trying to save you dinosaurs, as you put it, from the tar pit.
Nice. And that's awesome. So the senior techs were open to that as well. I know that could be a problem as well, where some guys are like, forget this, I'll just go somewhere else. I don't want to learn anymore.
Well, I think Shawn pointed out before, it's culture.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to build a culture that you can put a number of people at different age brackets, let's put it that way to be fair, and of skill and ability and agility, and you can still mix that and still get a very functional outcome by getting everybody to agree to invest in that type of culture, because everybody's going to get there one day. So if you can cycle that through, everybody knows they're going to have that opportunity.
Right. Interesting. Okay. All right. Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it. Tom Druzynski, I want to come over to you because, we've talked about it kind of from the angle of how can we assist, and sure, the ultimate goal is to bring them along in their knowledge base, their skill set. There still could be some limitations. And certainly, Marco, you mentioned age and the fact that regardless of the knowledge base, it's still, as of now, robots haven't taken over tech jobs yet. There's still a physical demand part of this. So when you get someone who's maybe late 50s, early 60s, they're breaking down shoulders, knees, stuff like that, and maybe they can't be quite as productive as they used to be. Tom, I know you guys have done some stuff and gotten a little creative with pay plans for those types of technicians, correct?
We have. And there's a couple of things with this. Like, first, I think we all have to understand and appreciate what a rare breed an automotive technician is, right? So you've got the knowledge, the smarts to understand the the technology, right? Something as simple as air conditioning, the wizardry that is air conditioning and how that works. You understand Ohm's law, those things. You've got the dexterity to use the tools, the ability to do those things. But at the same time, you also have to be incredibly tough. You're on your feet all day, arms above your heads, in the shop, in the heat, in the cold. You're going to get cut, scratched, bruised, burnt, bashed. I don't know a technician that has fingernails, but every day they come to work, they put their hands right back into the holes, and they just go at it. And that's a very special combination of skills and attributes that I think that we all have to be very appreciative of and understand how to long-term show that appreciation and guide them through the careers. If you think about those older technicians, right, by the time they get 20, 25 years in, they realistically have more training than most doctors. And the only difference is the human body is the same next year and 10 years from now as it is right now. I mean, granted, maybe our understanding of it's a little bit different, but the physical body is the same. Technology in a vehicle from 10, 20 years ago to now, vastly different. And another 10, 20 years from now, Jetsons, we're going to have those flying cars by that time.
I'm still waiting for the flying cars, by the way. Jetsons predicted that 30 years ago. I'm waiting, guys.
And the greatest exhaust note ever, right? That little noise that they made. So we have to understand that long term, those technicians, they have so much training in them that what we find is many of those technicians don't want to reinvent themselves and go the route of becoming EV techs and learning some of those other skills. And that's fine. It's wonderful for me to see the next level of the next generations of Marcos that are coming up throughout the groups and throughout the stores around us, where you've got the young and hungry that have a passion for the brand, have all the skills that we need. So while you're bringing them up to do this job, and I still think that we've got a while before we're going to see a high percentage of EVs in the market. I think as a group we sold, I don't know, north of 60,000 cars last year, and it was like 500 that were EV. But the way that we diagnose vehicles, the picoscopes, those sort of things change. So while you have those young entry-level technicians, those older technicians, if they're not ready to reinvent themselves, you have to be okay with that. You have to understand that they very much have a value, and you can't look at the production as the value of the human being. And I think that's one of the biggest things that's lost. The knowledge, the passion, the hands-on practical abilities that a lot of those technicians has, as Marco said, the most effective technicians aren't necessarily the ones that work the hardest, but they work the smartest. I refer to it as playing Tetris. They look at their day and all of the pieces they have in front of them. They're like, all right, I'm going to drain fluids on this while that's draining. I'm going to go test drive this. I'm going to pull codes from that, and they're able to stack those pieces and get that done. That's a very valuable skill that those technicians can pass on to those younger technicians, and they can teach an awful lot. So you change the way that you think, and you stop making it so that they have to continually chase their money. The saddest thing I think to me that happens in our industry is over time, the better that technician gets, the more knowledge they get. We give them harder and harder work. It's more and more difficult to diagnose. The hours go down, the rates come up, but not nearly enough. They don't go up nearly enough to offset the loss in production.
Yeah.
So you have an older technician that's still trying to turn 50, 60, 70 hours a week, can't get there. They're going to hurt themselves. Or worse, they're going to feel, less of a value to the store when they have so much more to offer. So I think you have to be willing to look at alternative pay plans outside of traditional flat rate. Look at hourly plans, look at mentor level pay plans where they're being paid for the work that the others are turning, make them faster. That's where that skill is to me. Make me a whole bunch of Marcos and I'll you can go home rich and don't have to be tired.
Yeah. Beautiful. I love it. You so much good in there. I want to talk about the flexibility in the pay plans because I get asked a lot, setting up a campaign. Hey, what are you guys doing with pay plan? And it's, well, what are you hearing? What should we do? What can we do? Give me some ideas. And that's always my biggest thing is flexibility with the pay plan. Let them come in, evaluate what their skill set is, what value. If you see value there, make it work, right? Don't say, hey, we pay this, it's flag rate, this is what you're getting, it's all we do. So,
and think about, Joe, think about the message that sends to those younger technicians if they watch you push this guy out the door, right? Yeah. This guy that's giving you 20, 30 years of his life, to taking care of all of these customers, handling all these vehicles, and you treat him to a point where he can't make money and he's worried about this every day, or he's got to push himself so hard that he gets hurt. Do you think that those young guys want to continue to work for you and want to give you that time, just to get that same treatment when they get older? You have to think about the bigger picture, not just the productivity of that one person.
Right. And still coming back to that idea of a true team, right? And looking at value, not based on individual, but the sum of the parts. I apologize if people aren't sports fans in our viewership here, because I always find sports analogies. So all I kept thinking of is backup quarterbacks, right? I'm thinking of Ryan Fitzpatrick and Josh McCown and all these guys that are just brilliant football minds, right? They can't go out there and sling it 70 yards anymore, and they can't do what the young guys can. But the value that they bring to a football team to be able to mentor and bring along a skilled, raw, talented young quarterback is massive. And I think it's a good carryover to our industry for sure. Absolutely. Thanks, Tom. Appreciate it. All right. Shawn Kingrey, I want to talk to you. What's going on, Shawn?
I think something I'm trying not to be Tully here and get overexcited about it, but I feel very strong about it.
What's wrong with what's wrong with being Tully? Get overexcited.
Because I don't want to take away Tully's luster. Okay? Tully's coined that, Marco says no pizza. Well, we all know what Tully's coined, okay? And it's funny because you and I were actually speaking earlier today, Joe. I think in my 29 years, the industry's changed, where when you hired a new technician 29 years ago, that technician, got treated like crap. They wouldn't talk to him. They wouldn't sit with him at lunch. They didn't invite him out. The rest of them would go. They'd hide his tools. They'd walk by a torn apart engine and they'd drop something in it so it exploded. I think that culture's changed. And again, I think it's an overused term these days, but it's true. I think that culture's changed so much now. We all talk about a career path for your technicians. How about creating, and we're working on, an exit strategy for those senior technicians? Guys, they do not want to go, but they know they have to. All right. If you make that exit as soft as you can, and you talk about growing your own, I can't explain enough. I'm going to use one of our Green Bay stores, for example, a technician that, by the way, I take to lunch every single week now at a little local bar for $1 taco. And he was the guy that 2 years ago was throwing tools to the shop, yelling at everybody, because quite frankly, that was his reaction to know when it was coming. He knew the end was coming. But now I have his buy-in and helping train the shop. He's making money off the rest of the shop, and he's training the new techs. And by the way, everybody's point so far, the new techs, because he's not such a grumpy guy, I'm being nice when I say that, now they're showing him what they already knew, what they were missing, because they were going to share with him because he wasn't sharing with them. I can tell you, I think the exit strategy of your senior techs is just as important as your career path of your new techs.
Interesting. Beautiful. That's a really cool story. Thanks, Shawn. Mm-hmm. All right, Robert Migliaccio, I'm sending it over to you before we finish with Tully.
Absolutely. Hey, as everybody's been going on here, man, it comes down to just having a good plan in place, I think, is the biggest aspect of what you're looking at. We take advantage of what Marco said and try to utilize the youth that's coming into our shop. We're blessed to have a lot of young shops throughout our auto group. My shop specifically is full of a lot of younger technicians that are kind of growing from within. And we do a little bit of what Tom said, looking at different pay plan setups for the technicians and ensuring that they're kind of getting compensated and taken care of in a position where they're not having to stretch and focus on trying to make 60, 70, 80 hours a week anymore. And you do get a different caliber of a technician once you get to that capacity of what they're able to do and what they're able to share and kind of portray down to the other technicians' issues. That time management aspect and the shop flow and the shop science and having the smarts of how to operate in and out of a work stall. Those are things that no matter what happens and what changes with the vehicles that we're working on still needs to be taken into account for at the end of the day. They ultimately need to know how to write the 3 C's on a repair order, how to document things properly, how to help an RO stand on its own, how to communicate with advisors and give the knowledge back to what they're talking to. So there's a lot of things in play that they help teach and bring to the table that no matter what the technology changes on, even though that's going to change, like we said, it's a bigger part of what's going on. But you look at how the interactions with the people are, and that growth there that's coming together for what they can do is a huge part. And, taking into account, what Shawn said, we have a similar thing going on now at one of our stores where former service manager now, who used to be a technician in our shop, he's taken on that role for one of our auto group areas. And he's actually going to be leading a training course. We're going to actually put lifts in, and we're going to send some of our younger techs there and actually try to self-train within to give him something to do as a retirement, because he's stepping down from the management level. He's stepping into a different role and helping progress the rest of the team. So ultimately, like I said, just taking a little bit from what everybody said, helping out on that communicational aspect, and just really the science of organizing your work bay and your work stall and time management is huge. Yeah. No matter what we get into, that's a big part of what takes into the day-to-day to get it handled.
Yeah. And I love this discussion about the kind of end life career path. We talked a ton on here about that early career path, and sure, that's important, but you want to keep these guys. And as one of you mentioned, you want to set an example for the younger guys to show what the future looks like, so that they stick around and they can see how you treat people, when they're getting closer to the end. You guys have both kind of hit on this kind of mentor, trainer, shop foreman role. I love seeing that. I think it's a huge intermediary piece between individuals such as yourself and technicians. You guys have your hands full with a number of things, and to have some veteran eyes and ears in there to kind of take care of the younger guys, make them feel value, and keep them part of the team is huge, I think. All right, here he is, Tully Williams.
Good afternoons. I'm telling you, I love old techs. So we had a tech that retired at 52 years working for the great Neo company. Yeah. It was awesome as a Volkswagen tech. He was the guy that fixed all the old techs. But what was really we've talked about the best is an exit plan for that person. And that's the trick of keeping great senior technicians. One is that these great senior technicians have worked for us for 20 to 30 years, are usually the most educated in the shop, and are exceeding all of our expectations because it's all about the hours. They're hitting their goals and crushing them. And the problem happens as they get older is those goals are harder to hit. Yeah. And we talked about adjusting pay plans, and that's exactly what we do. If we have a senior tech, and we've had 2 or 3 of those in our group that are at the point they're not going to make 10, 15, 20 hours a day. Now we get them down into where they turn them into an hourly tech. The hours forecast now for the shop comes down because everybody is actually paid on that hours forecast. So that person is not being penalized, or there's the guy that's not making the hours forecast. We eliminate that. He will become an hourly technician, being half of the rate of everybody else when it comes to their forecast. But he has the ability to make more money for him and his family if he chooses. So if he produces 7 hours, I'll give him a pay raise. And if he produces 8 hours or 10 hours a day on average in that pay cycle, we'll give him a thank you gift, additional money. But the point of it is that putting a strain on our great senior technicians that a lot of times are the only ones sometimes can figure out what's wrong with the automobile is a must to keep them in the shop. The pay plan has to be right for them. Do not stress them out. Make sure they're a valuable asset, and they become the mentors of that shop. And what happens is that nobody wants them to retire ever, because now they're turning out to help all of the youngins on those cars there. And remember, they're fully trained, because if they're in our pay path, the way to get paid more, as we like to say, the pathway to 55 is getting trained. And a lot of our senior techs are maxed out in most all of their training, which means they're getting paid the most. And now we just have to reel them back and say, my hands are tired, my backs, my shoulders, we get that. And now we will tone them down to where their forecast is half, and focus on making sure they have those last years with us as long as possible. And of course, we want to make sure we pay them handsomely.
Nice, beautiful. That was a bunch. Thanks. You're always just giving away the secret sauce out there, Tully. Just telling everybody. Tully, real quick, and I should ask everybody here. What would you say average age of your technician in your shop is? I know you got a number of stores.
So we have 159 technicians in the great Neo company. I would think that we have a great tenure at the store. So we have techs, a lot of techs in that 20 to 30 range in years working for us. Wow. So our average age is going to be higher, but the last 3 to 4 years, as everybody says, we have a tech shortage. And I know we wanted to talk about the seniors, but I believe that we have to grow within so we do not have a tech shortage. So we really are working hard to build that deck of the shop helpers turn into shop assistants, which turns into shop hourlies, which turn into flat rates. So we are trying to bring that age down so we have ability to hire technicians as they come in.
Right.
They're, we're hiring within, which is the best person to hire.
Beautiful. Yeah, and it just feeds itself and just keeps going and going. And the veteran techs are certainly a big part of this. So
And
thank
the best part about that is that we're interviewing these technicians, for 1 to 2 to 3 years before they ability. So if they're in a trade school or going to junior college or whatever they wish to do, we want them to complete that education they have committed to. But we also get to watch and interview them, right? The foremans, the techs out there like, oh, that kid's gonna be a great kid. And those things there help us build that technician's ability up to become that next great hourly technician and then turn into a great flat rate technician for the needle company. And we keep that flow into the shop. So we're trying to keep that average age down. And yet our senior technicians, our masters in the shop, we have a pathway on the exit out. I think that was a great analogy that we talked about. That is probably the most important technician we have to keep in the shop, is do not let your age go. If you have great culture and you pay well, they are never going to want to leave.
Yeah, that's why you want them included in the succession plan.
Yes, 100%.
Yes. Absolutely. Marco, I'm going to wrap up with you. We started with you. Do you feel a little better? Not everyone out there is exceptional as these 5 gentlemen, but I feel like we hit on some good points. Hopefully some people are listening and take it to heart.
Well, I think the nice thing is that listening to Tully and Robert and Tom and Shawn and Michael, that they're all pretty much on the same line. They all understand the importance of a good technician, whether it's a veteran or beginner. If the attitude is there and the aptitude is there, they understand the importance. Unfortunately, there's so many of them out there that are just like, max profit for the first day and who cares about after that, So I know there's hope for the automotive society out there that, we see on a daily basis, but we as fixed op warriors, we got a long way to go before everybody thinks like these gentlemen do. And, you can keep guys like me around. Yeah. But I think that, as long as we keep this up, keep these conversations going, and we always come up with new, fresh stuff and great talks about how to handle this. So
you got to start somewhere, right?
Absolutely.
Beautiful. Thank you, gentlemen.
Joe, this has got to be one of the best, if not the best topic I've heard.
This was great. Yeah. That was all Marco. Great topic, Marco. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Joe, tell the audience, if they don't know already, what does AutoMax do?
Yeah, so we'll be 26 years in November. We provide full service automotive staffing to retail dealerships, independent dealerships, service centers. Pretty heavy focus on fixed ops recruiting. We're probably about 65% on the fixed ops side at this point. So this is certainly something we deal with frequently. Number of different models, way that we do it. But at the end of the day, it comes down to being proactive, being aggressive, using some of these wonderful, tactics and strategies that we talked about here. And we're a people industry, just like you guys are a people industry. So just finding good people and getting them plugged in and helping our dealer partners succeed.
Joe, I know you work with a lot of the dealers on the Fixed Ops Roundtable, many of the dealers on this panel as well. And you help them find talent and the right talent. Joe, you're on LinkedIn. I see you on Facebook. What's the best way for people to reach out if they have any questions?
I like throwing my cell phone out there. I like having conversations direct with myself. My cell phone 609-705-8646. Website is automaxrecruitingandtraining.com. But like you said, I'm all over social media. Feel free, anyone who needs to reach out, wants to just pick my brains and talk about what we're seeing out there. I'm always available.
Love the stuff. Great panel, everybody. And by the way, it's been great to come out and see many of you in person. Tully at the Nilo Company just a few months ago. Mike Weldon, you came out to that pop-up that we did there. Shawn, we just spent time with you and out in Wisconsin last month. Great to see you and meet your team there. Marco, we meet again in Orlando. That was a lot of fun. So
absolutely, it was great.
Robert and Tom and Joe, we got to meet up on the road. So this is
I'm trying. You're doing one at Northwood Institute, right?
We're going up there October 6th. We're going to be at Northwood University, everybody.
I'm going to tell you what, it takes a lot for me to go to the state of Michigan. I might be able to make an exception for that. I don't think I've ever been to the state of Michigan, but I'll put it on the calendar.
This is one to make an exception for. Joe Lockard, everybody. AutoMax recruiting and training with the A-list panel: Marco Zwanenburg, Mike Weldon, Robert Migliaccio, Tom Druzynski, Shawn Kingrey, and Tully Williams with Joe Lockard here at the AutoMax TechVengers panel at the Fixed Ops Roundtable. Great job, gentlemen.
Feeling fab for fixed ops? Don your best digs, and welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable FORTSTOCK event.
Join the chit chat on the newest technology with the Affinitiv panel as they discuss ChatGPT.
Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. It's time to welcome the Affinitiv panel with a great topic. Last time we got together, we talked about the far-reaching topic of past, present, and future communication. We're honored to have Jeff Bogaski, the Chief Revenue Officer. Jeff, welcome back to the event.
Ted, thanks for having me, and good morning. And I hope you had a great holiday weekend a few weeks ago as well.
That's right. You've got some friends here. If you don't mind, introduce them.
Yeah, Jeff Jackson is Director of Sales out of Atlanta. Jeff and I have worked together for many years. And then Michelle Blakeley, VP of OEM Relations. Michelle has a vast variety of background from the automotive sector to the OEM sector, and now with Affinitiv. Excited to have her as well. And we have a few guests on your end that joined as well, too.
That's right. And I believe Jeff Jackson knows Shawn Kingrey quite well. Shawn is the Vice President of the Kaiser Automotive Group, and very honored to have Sarah Vantine, Vice President of Sales at Quantum 5. So great that all of you can join us. As I said, we had an amazing panel last time around. Jeff, give us the big picture, kind of open things up, because the story really began with you and with your daughter as well.
My daughter. So last time it was around communication with customers and how it's different from different age groups. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take that to another level. So recently, my daughter was texting me this idea of going on some trip out of town on a flight to go visit friends. And it was a very elaborate text, kind of like when we talked about communicating with TikTok and all that prior. And it ended up being ChatGPT when I came to it. And I found that out when I was talking to a friend. We were talking about how that's going to really impact the world and our industries and all that. So I went back to her and she's like, how did you know that? But when I dove into it more and more, it's a topic that dealers need to be paying attention to today. So if you're on there and you don't know much about it, I'd say listen up, because it's not going away. It's here to stay. And we have a great panel that's going to discuss that today.
Well, for our audience, just to kind of explain it, Michelle, would you mind, what is ChatGPT for those of us who need to catch up?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Ted. And thanks again for having me, and welcome everyone. So ChatGPT is artificial intelligence at its core. So it is a tool that was developed via open artificial intelligence out there on the internet, and it actually creates content. So it crawls the internet and comes up with words that should put together and create content, or in Jeff's case, for his daughter, a whole text message string. But it's really just a chatbot and an artificial intelligence at its core that's bringing machine learning together to develop content.
And Michelle, I've used it a couple times, and it's actually, it's been quite good the times I've seen it.
Yes, it's getting better. And again, it's at its core, it's just artificial intelligence, but over time has gotten better. It will continue to get better. Artificial intelligence has been around, since 1950s. But over the last, I would say 18 months or so, it's really become more prevalent, and it will continue to get better, I would say, over the next 2 to 5 years.
So Michelle, what do we need to know in the retail car business about ChatGPT? What do we need to be aware of looking forward? Here we are mid-September, and it's coming on strong.
It is indeed. Well, first, let me, kind of paint the picture beyond what ChatGPT is. As I said, it's artificial intelligence. It's been around for a very long time. And the reason it's become more prevalent now and will continue to become prevalent is because data is king, right? It's become king in more industries, auto included. And the reason for that is the expectations of the customers have really changed over time. And so I would say some of that's due to the Amazon effect, right? I want everything that I want right now, that they kind of created with Prime that started in 2005. Even Netflix, right? I can watch what I want when I want it. And our smart devices, we have great devices in the palm of our hands. And so with the shift of consumer expectations, the need for data and using the data has increased. And so here comes generative AI, predictive AI. And with that, there's some good, some bad, and of course, some ugly. And that does include the auto industry. We're not shielded from it. So the good, artificial intelligence tools like ChatGPT, digital art creators, there's some others out there. They really can support and make easier tasks for dealerships and all companies. So we could be using it to create text messages like Jeff's daughter, respond to customers via email with proper grammar. We know sometimes that's an issue. Create online advertisements, visuals, write an ad. Dealers could even use it for employee onboarding or training. Create voiceover videos, write good SEO, enrich website copy, and more. So there's a lot of productivity that could come out of this in professional and personal lives. That's really great for the dealership. But then there's also the bad, right? The data is only good as the data in, as we know. And we say that about our CRM tools a lot, but AI is no different. And since the AI tools are crawling for content that's created from humans, there's human biases that could be in place, which could be hurtful for some dealerships, for some companies. There's socioeconomical pitfalls that could come out. Academic integrity could be a problem down the road, really not for dealerships, but more for in general. Creativity. There could be dealerships not having their own creativity. If they use AI, they may be crawling other dealers' websites or other companies out there, and it could duplicate, which could actually hurt SEO content. And then the more AI that's used is the loss of human influence or empathy, reasoning. Try selling a car or an expensive repair with no emotion in the conversation. And we know that those expensive repairs and car purchases really have an emotional decision and connection that's needed for it in order for the consumer to say yes to those. And so that's really the bad. But, Ted, if you don't mind, I'd also like to talk about the ugly. Jeff kind of mentioned it. There's some ugly out there, and the bad guys always find a way to win. And AI is no different. ChatGPT is no different, because now there's new tools out there called Fraud GPT, Worm GPT, where they're creating malicious code to attack websites, malware to trick customers into clicking links. I mean, before, we've always known about malware, and dealerships, have become victim to it, but not as much. They will become victim to it even more. There's hacking tools. So thinking of breaking into online payment processings, sending customers fake emails to come buy a car, or fake ads, writing spam pages, or as I mentioned, stealing things from content that maybe the dealer's paid for.
Wow.
And then let's not forget about the privacy concerns, right? Will AI tools be GDPR compliant? Will they be affecting copyright laws if it's stealing something on accident that we don't know about? And so although there's all this good that comes with it and productivity that can come out of it, there is concern, right? That this is going to take over the world, that there still needs to be human reaction to it, and that there could be a trust factor. So there is good, but we have a long way before the bad kind of goes away. And honestly, the more time that we deal with it, we're probably going to see more bad hit the table.
Shawn Kingrey, this actually affects a lot of the things you and I have been talking about recently. All the things that Michelle mentioned, from payment processing, communication. And I want to get Sarah's feedback too, because she's on the front lines and developing with People First BDC. But before I do, Shawn, let me ask you, how does this make you feel?
It's funny because Michelle made a comment that data is key, but we ultimately know that the biggest train of failure is communication. Communication is key. And we talked about it the last time I was on the panel. We talked about it, Ted, when you were up in Madison. AI is coming. We all have to accept it. We all have to know it. Are we ready for it? Maybe not. Maybe AI is not completely ready for us. But it is what's the future. It is about communication. And quite frankly, it's the way the client wants to be communicated with. I think during the last panel I got mentioned, voicemail. Don't leave me a voicemail. Nobody wants a voicemail. Okay. I don't know that I'm much different. And, being 50 years old, I know that I'm at the point, I probably don't listen to my voicemails because it's all visual. Leave me a text. And, we all know that, our good partner, John Fairchild, on his voicemail says, don't leave me voicemails. Leave me a text. And again, AI is the way of the future. Ted, we did a panel with parts in AI and where AI is going to be coming in parts even. And again, we can't get it right in service yet, so I don't know if we're there, but it's definitely the way of the future.
Sarah, how does this make you feel with all the work you've done and continue to do, the good work on the front lines?
Well, it's actually really exciting. So, I mean, in my company's name, Quantum 5, you go to our website, it's quantum5.ai. It was built that way in 2020 for a reason. And so what Michelle touched on is so important. You have to keep the human element within the technology. So the technology is only as good as the individual that is spot checking and making sure that what's happening is relevant to their customer and to the employee. And so we embrace AI at my company, and I've embraced it really heavily in the People First BDC strategy. But that being said, AI cannot ever replace somebody that's going to be thinking about the different things that are happening in a business and applying that logic to a customer situation. And in terms, I think about what always happens at the self-checkout kiosks in the grocery store. Everything goes smoothly until you have a problem. And then you're looking for that associate and you're looking around going, where is a person? I need a person. This isn't behaving the way it's supposed to. And so the same thing happens when we apply the technology lens with AI. When things go wrong, that's when we want a person to talk to. That's when we want an individual to take ownership and think about it differently than maybe a machine would.
Jeff Bogaski, at the last event, we talked about the communication styles and patterns and preferences for different age groups. But Jeff Bogaski, this really takes everything to a whole nother realm.
It does. And I think everyone's hitting on it. Like there's a lot of good. And I think in the future, it'll provide us a lot of simplicity. But today, there's so many things that are on the negative side. It's taken thoughts and behaviors of others to formulate the data. So when you go in, if you're not spot checking data you're building, like you have to really be checking that to the message to your dealer or to your customer body, whether you're the vendor or the dealer, could really get misstrued and be the wrong message because it's using that data. And Jeff Jackson, what do you think if you're a dealer out there that doesn't really know much about it or just is hearing about it now? What do you think they need to do when they think of AI and how to prepare for ChatGPT and other vendors like that?
I think the knee jerk is fear, right? As car people, we fear the change, right? But I think if you look at it and come from that side, when you're in a service advisor and you call and pitch a water pump on an Explorer, you've got to know the first thing that customer is going to do is Google Explorer water pump, and they're going to try to gather that information. And I think with this technology, it's a way for us to kind of control what's getting in front of the customer so that we're not, it's like you said, there's some bad out there too. So if the customer goes on their own and Googles it, they could find out some detrimental information to either the brand or the specific make and model. Oh, there's a recall on these in a 2004. Well, man, yours is a 2014. It's nowhere near the same thing. And I think with the artificial intelligence that we're able to provide through a chat, like a bot chatting, I think it's going to just kind of connect the dots between what the consumer's already doing and allowing us to at least see what information they're seeing. Whereas right now, we don't know what they're seeing on Google after we hang up that phone trying to sell that job. So that's kind of where I think it is. But I think just like anything, we fear change, but we've got to embrace it. And the ones that do the best are the ones that grow the most. So.
Michelle, how quick is this coming? I know in many ways it's already here. Is it already here all the way around us?
It is. I think everybody would be shocked to know how much around you it actually is. As I said, there's new fraud tools out there. Google's launching new tools every day. So is Facebook, where you can go out and, even upload a picture and ask for it to describe it to you. Companies are starting to use it for training. There's a new tool that recently launched a couple of months ago, I believe, that allows you to block your website from being crawled from AI. So I highly recommend that the dealers out there and even the partners out there go out and take a look at it. If you don't want your data crawled or displayed, because you don't want people to steal it, go out there and you can say, don't crawl this. Or as Jeff Jackson said, maybe you want it out there. Maybe you want them to find your website and be put into the crawling space and the training to say, hey, don't forget about me, right? I am the right dealership to visit. Or when you're looking at where to get your brakes done, I want to come up in the search results for these AI tools, because if not, a third party company may be out there. So I think people would be surprised to know it's all around us. And it's just going to get more effective and used more. And I would say in the next 12 months, our whole world is going to be engulfed with AI.
Michelle, has the auto industry been slow to adopt this, like with many other initiatives? We're a little bit behind and it's been out there now with other industries.
Oh, 100%. I always say that we're a little late to the 8 ball because of fear. But I also think we're a more human interaction industry. I don't remember if I said this in our last chat or not, but a few months ago, I was on at a conference and somebody actually went into ChatGPT and said, will ChatGPT or will AI take over the auto industry? And ChatGPT came back and said, the auto industry has an emotional connection and there will always need to be human interaction. So although I do believe that there's a little delay for auto industry, I think it's because we're such an emotional human interaction that's never going to go away. Although it may surround us, buying a car, buying those big ticket items into the service department, needing to get things purchased in the service department, like the water pump that Jeff said, those are all things that require us to make a decision. And, no AI is going to be able to do that for us.
Sarah, what are your thoughts? Anything scare you? And if so, what on the ChatGPT side from what we know so far?
Well, and even just going beyond ChatGPT for a second. So there's a lot of AI tools that can help individuals be more productive in their roles and be more productive in how they're managing their day. So I think about some of the things that like Tango and Synthesia and Grammarly, like there's all these different utilizations that we can speed up some of our productivity and have technology spot check what we're doing for things like Michelle mentioned, grammar, spelling, that could speed up and help a salesperson or somebody that's communicating through text or some other communication with a customer. Where the danger is going to lie is not inspecting the processes and the workflows that happen when you are interacting with the customer. So, I mean, I've seen this even in customer interactions going back years ago when there were chat bots and things where the customer was communicating on a dealership's website. Sometimes if a customer asks a certain question, the chat it doesn't know where to go based on the question. And so it just regurgitates a canned answer over and over, and people get stuck in these loops. And that's the thing that is frustrating for a lot of people, is when the technology misbehaves, or the voice AI, if they're talking to something, trying to book airline tickets or change flight information, and they go through the prompts, and then suddenly they get launched back to the beginning again because they said something or the system thought something differently. Really what's going to, at the end of the day, the caution that I would give dealerships and really anybody in the space is that you have to be constantly inspecting what happens all along the chain of workflow. So if the communication, if there's certain things that you want to have happen when somebody uses certain keywords, test it. Test your systems constantly. See what you can do to, break the system, so to speak. And that would be my advice for dealerships, or really any company, is just test the limits of where it can go. Because if you don't, your customers are going to encounter that eventually, and then that's going to erase a lot of the credibility that you were hoping to gain.
Good point. Thank you, Sarah. Jeff Jackson, what is Affinitiv doing to prepare for all of this?
We've got a whole team of product development team working with Michelle to make sure that we're on the forefront and the cutting edge of all of this as the change happens. And really, it's minute to minute, hour to hour, day to day, week to week on how it's changing. And so we've got a whole team of people working hard to stay at the forefront of the technology.
We recently attended a conference, and we'll continue to stay updated because, and I think Sarah said something around it. It will help us be better as vendors, as dealers. There's advantages of AI. It's in all these tools. A lot of the vendors out there are promoting AI. It's not going away. We just have to be careful. Right? We don't need bias or the wrong messaging to go out, because it creates a bad experience for our customers, us as vendors. It creates a bad experience for our dealers. So we have to be careful, but it is not going away. And we need to figure out the way to embrace it and use it the correct way. And I think Michelle said it. In 12 months, this is going to be very different than it is today. It's extremely fast moving. Think about these bot sites. Like, they only go back a couple years, but when you go forward 12 months, they'll probably go back 10 years. That's how quickly it's moving. It's accumulating all that data, and it will use it. I put something in about you, Ted. I put like 8 words in, and it put out this like two paragraphs all about you. And if I sent it to you, you would know I didn't write it because it's that elaborate as well.
Wow. Okay. So there we go. Michelle, there are several companies that I know of that have communicated with me that have been sharing their marketing messages, and they use AI. Okay. Not necessarily here on the roundtable, but within the automotive industry. And recently, Michelle, they both said to me, you know what, and they both have a lot of AI built into their product. They said, let's not talk so much about the AI side when we market it. So, has there been a little pushback on the part of dealers and the consumers, in terms of some fear of AI?
Oh, yes, there's definitely fear out there, definitely from companies and consumers, just because there's a lack of trust in what's out there. As I mentioned, it's only as good as the data that's out there. So when using generative AI, which is focusing on creating something, versus predictive, which is predicting based on historical, you're only using what's out there today. And I was actually recently listening to a podcast about AI. It was like AI and Today. And they were talking about how Zoom came out and updated their terms of service. And their terms of service said that they could use your calls, things like this, for their training bots. And, the CEO came out shortly after that and was like, that was a mistake. We didn't update our service agreements. Everyone will get permission if we use this data. But then it caused this concern of like, okay, who owns the data? If I can be on a conference call having conversations about items that should be confidential or proprietary, and you may be able to use it to go out and put your training bots at it, and then use it maybe to market or know what facial expressions to use or how we socially talk to each other, that's a little scary. And so more and more companies are starting to they want to use it, but then when they hear things like this, they start to draw back and go, ooh, should we be talking about AI in our marketing? Should we be telling people that we're using data? Because although, as I said, consumer habits have changed and we want data to be used. And as Shawn said, we really just want good communication, but good communication comes from knowing the customer, right? There's also the scary factor that has been around for many years, which is, do I really want you to know me? I mean, I do, but I don't, because it's scary.
Shawn, you deal with a lot of OEMs there in Wisconsin. I've been there. I've seen it firsthand. You've got a lot of great partners. Let me ask you, what's keeping you up at night when we talk here about AI, in your interactions with OEMs and partners that, you'd even want to be aware of?
It's funny because you're talking about, are they scared? Is the OEM or our partners scared of AI? And I think, Jeff Jackson and Jeff and I've known each other a long time. I think we're all afraid of change. But I'm going to take our 3 Chrysler stores, for example. They changed the way they're doing business starting in August, that where you contacted after the visit for service. They didn't ask if you were happy with your service. They didn't ask if you'd come back for your service, where you contacted after. And I know Affinitiv has a version of this, and there's other tools out there that they're now promoting. Chrysler themselves are promoting using AI as a form of communication with the client, not just, hey, thanks for bringing your vehicle in for service. You can communicate with me this way, which is an advantage because it saves it forever, by the way. And that way there's no he said, she said. But hey, were you contacted? And hey, my name is Shawn. Thanks for coming in. You go through the whole song and dance. Guys, there's $450 for every vehicle sold tied to that percentage at the end of the month. Wow. You go to a store like I'm in today that sells 100 new cars, 150 new cars a month. Those numbers add up early. So they're relating the AI or the communication with the client in fixed operations with the variable side of how many cars they sell. Guys, that's a number that changes that changes your bottom line. That goes straight to net.
Holy cow. Michelle, there's a lot for us to be aware of.
100%. There's a lot to be aware of. And like I said, there's really good things that are coming from productivity with AI. And people want us to use it. They certainly do. It's just using it in the right format and, making sure we're not scaring customers and our dealers and using it for good and not for bad.
Shawn, we recently said, we haven't really had a panel here on the roundtable talking about AI. Shawn, here we are.
Here we are. We just talked about it literally, wasn't too long ago, how we tried to get away from it. We all stuck I think our comment was, we all stuck our big toe in the water and tried it, kind of got bit a little bit to Jeffrey's point where, we tried it and you get caught in this loop on clients that hadn't been to the store before. If the client had been there before, it seemed to work seamless. But when you had the guy from out of town or the guy who was trying you for the first time, you got caught in that loop and you got caught in that endless loop. And that's what's changing. I know everybody's working on getting a fix for that. Listen, Ted, like I said earlier, it's coming. It's here to stay. It's not going anywhere.
Jeff, this is just Jeff Bogaski. This is another tool in your toolbox in Affinitiv there that you're bringing out to dealers. And I know, between Jeff Jackson and Michelle that you're going to make it the best.
We will. Yep. Great conversation. Thanks for the guests today. Communicating with our customer is key. Whether you're the vendor and the dealer is a customer, or whether you're the dealer like Shawn and the customer body out there, it's important. AI is going to impact how we deliver messaging. We just have to be careful. I think embracing it is important, but being protective while you embrace it's going to be equally as important, because Michelle said it early on, like the bias and political thoughts and all that, opinions of others, we do not want those opinions to leak out. So if you embrace AI today, make sure that you have a spot check, or make sure you download apps that will help protect that messaging to make sure the message you want delivered to your customers is the right one going out.
Everybody, Affinitiv delivers so much for our retail dealer body. You can visit them for more information at affinitiv.com. I want to thank our panel today, Shawn Kingrey from the Kaiser Automotive Group, Sarah Vantine. Sarah, thank you, from Quantum 5, Michelle Blakeley, and Jeff Jackson from Affinitiv. Jeff, all of these conversations begin with some interaction with your daughter and something that she's doing online. So,
well, I have to correct. She's 15 now, not 14. But it's so important, because if we think about today, well, we have to prepare for tomorrow. Yeah. Dealers have been around for hundreds of years because next generations come in, and that 15-year-old is going to own a car in 6 months or less. She hopes in a couple days. But in 5 to 10 years, she's the next service customer for Shawn's dealerships. And what they think is important is what we need to prepare for in the future.
And thank you, Jeff Bogaski, for preparing us here at the Fixed Ops Roundtable for what's coming. You leave no stone unturned. So everybody, great honor to have the Affinitiv panel here with us today at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Need help increasing sales for your dealership? With just one place to connect your data, solutions, and results, you can finally align your teams, improve performance, and power business efficiencies across all your stores. Easily source inventory, bring more traffic to your dealership, and speak to your audience to boost conversions with multi-channel digital solutions. Drive repeat business and transform your operations with a data-driven, integrated suite. Turn shoppers to sales. Increase vehicle acquisition. Maximize service scheduling. Enhance service lane experience. Own your retention marketing. Drive service conquest. And convert service to sales. Our suite, your solution. Contact us today and deliver first-rate experiences to your consumers.
If your dealership is leaking profits and you don't know why, you need more than data. You need Vision AST. Vision AST is a single solution analytics platform engineered to uncover critical information from your DMS. Using real-time data to drive profit from every department is what we do. And with Vision AST, just log in on any device and your KPIs are right at your fingertips. You can't manage what you can't measure. Take control of your dealership's profits with Vision AST.
Forgot your FORTSTOCK tickets? You're in luck. Our next segment features the modern payment acceptance panel from DealerPay.
Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. I am Ted Ings. I'm here with Shawn Kingrey at the Kaiser Automotive Group. Shawn, a lot happening in our industry right now.
A lot, and I kind of feel like the small fish in a big pond on this panel, so I'll go ahead and let them introduce yourself. Bill, we'll start with you.
Thank you. I'm Bill Sepic. I'm the president of the Wisconsin Automobile and Truck Dealers Association here in Wisconsin.
Julie Douglas, president, CEO of DealerPay.
Travis Siebert, VP of Sales, DealerPay.
Now, Julie, I met Bill at the pop-up that we did a little bit earlier, but Travis is new. What's Travis's role going to be?
So Travis is fantastic. I mean, I call myself sales lady extraordinaire.
You are.
You might be salesman extraordinaire. No, Travis came on with us not so long ago, but he's basically running most of the Midwest and upper Northeast as far as lead in sales.
So Travis, tell us some of the things that you do and will be doing for the DealerPay meet.
Yeah, so I've been in the space about 11 years in the merchant service space in general. Found the dealership space as a vertical that I just kind of fit well with. I love how they communicate with me. I love when they know what they want and it's easy. But yeah, so I'm running the Midwest for Julie and partner with sales associates like Bill and getting to really spend time with the dealers and see how we can help them.
Julie, what I think is different about DealerPay is that you are a dealer-specific payment solution where a lot of times, Shawn, we interact with controllers and so on, but we're dealing with non-dealer specific. Julie, tell us why that's so important.
Well, dealerships, as you guys know, is way different than big box retail, right? There's several departments under one roof, and each of them acts differently, and with our perspective, accepts payments differently. So what we've done, and I feel like we've done really well, is we've designed a software solution to accept all those payments in the methods that those departments need to. Different from a restaurant or, a hotel. The customers are different, the interactions are different, the processes are different. So when you talk about accepting or collecting receivables, it has to be fine-tuned, and dealers who have a solution that is not fine-tuned, they're doing more work.
And Julie, I know from my history in the business that one of the most important things to the dealer is to make sure that we get that receivable, that we get paid, and you really make sure that gets done.
Yes, absolutely. At the end of the day, every RO, parts ticket, deposit down payment, even some of the back office receivables all get collected through our system and reconciled and deposited in the bank same day or next day.
Wow. Bill, we're seeing a lot of change in the industry. We're seeing mobile service. We're seeing customers who want to pay on their convenience, on their phone. Bill, it's not every day we get the president of the State Dealer Association here. Tell us a little bit about what you do and the relationship also with DealerPay and Julie.
You bet. We represent roughly 600 to 700 dealers across the state of Wisconsin. That is franchise dealers. It is heavy-duty truck dealers, RV dealers, motorcycle dealers, independent dealers. So we represent all of those. And we we strive to make sure those that we put our seal of approval on, or those that we endorse, are at the pinnacle of their profession. And working with Dealer Pay, that has been a no-brainer. I mean, you have a group here that is Midwest-based. They have the morals, the values, the ethics of a Midwest company. And really how they came to us at first, Ted, it was all about the relationship. Whether it was Julie and her and I meeting about 6-7 years ago and just laying the groundwork for me to understand what she did, or whether it's been her putting Travis in this area, and again, watching him work our board of directors, work our membership, and it's about sharing. I'm Travis, I'm with Dealer Pay, how can I help you? There has never been a, how do I make this sale? That's what separates this company from the other companies that do this, is it's first based on the relationship, then the sale is made.
Very well said. Shawn, you and I see a lot of things at the Fixed Ops Roundtable. There are a lot of partners, a lot of companies out there, but one thing that we noticed about Julie early on was that she has the message down. She knows how to tell the story, meaning that she has done this before.
She has, and I got to say, I obviously met Julie through one of the events and one of the panels that we did together, and listening to Tully Williams talk about, we talked about it back in August and during one of the pop-up events, that if the controller's happy, everybody's happy, and you don't have somebody going around chasing receipts and chasing things and who got this payment, who got that payment. And again, the other side of it, we also talked about it, you need to be able to have a payment type that's convenient for the client. That's not convenient for you, that's convenient for them. Ted, you mentioned mobile. Mobile's a big thing. You have technicians out there. You need to have a way that those technicians can collect payment. You need to collect in cash or collecting whatever. And I know Julie will get into it on her side of it, but you got Venmo. You got so many different options now. It's not just a credit card. They have sources to pay. And again, mobile service isn't going to go away. It's coming here. It's part of the future.
In the theme of Woodstock or FORTSTOCK, there's a lot of musical themes and songs that go along with that. But Julie, you and I talked a little bit before we got started about that theme of, breaking up. And in a lot of times when a dealership has to make a decision in terms of how they're going to be processing payments, there might be a breakup involved, okay? Because they have a provider who's been doing it for so long, and it's not the modern way, it's the old way. Julie, is breaking up hard to do?
It's really not. I'll be honest, the reputation of our payments industry is not the greatest. There's a lot of companies out there that, pretend to be a good partner when it comes to payment acceptance. And what will happen is that love them and leave them. They're gone. Once they make the sale, they're gone. And that's just the opposite of how we work. We want to have obviously obtain the sale and the relationship, but we nurture it ongoing. And even after that, we pretty much do all the work. A lot of office managers, controllers, and even fixed ops, as we're starting to get into that arena, it's that concept of change. Change is hard, but really it doesn't have to be. And what we're also finding is upgrading technology and making this change is actually saving dealers money. So, if we can get to the point where we present the solution to a dealer and we compare what they're doing today, 9 times out of 10, we're saving them money, making their departments more productive and efficient, and then those controllers and office managers are super happy.
Accountability. It's all about accountability. You know where the payment is.
Right.
Travis, I see Dealer Pay now all over the airwaves. I see you on social media, which means Julie's team is growing. Mm-hmm. And I see that when you actually bring or onboard a dealer, you also provide training. You provide the tools. You provide that relationship, which is not just at the beginning, but all throughout. Tell us a little bit about the training and some of the things that you do that's unique to Dealer Pay.
No, great question. So we kind of approach it differently. Since we're not a turn and burn type of organization, it's relationships. So I think it starts even before the sale, to be honest with you. I need to understand how a dealership functions, where their pain points are, where they're nervous about change. I've been doing this long enough to know that not every change is easy, and there's always going to be steps you have to overcome. But partner with them from day one. We have a great team behind us that support us on a daily basis from when they first need to figure out where a battery seat is or any of those things. We help them there. So my goal is to help them understand that there's stresses that are going to come, but we know what they are, and we're going to address them before we even start. And I think that's the number one, making sure they know going in it's not just a drop a terminal in the mail and hope for the best when you plug it in. We show up, we're on site, and we're very hands-on to make sure they're very, very competent for me.
Bill, on the dealer association side, I know that Julie works with other dealer associations. She got really started, I believe she told me earlier, in Missouri, okay, with that. But how do you, on a dealer association with 600 to 700 dealers, how do you vet? How do you know, who's a solid provider, a solid partner, to introduce and have that seal of approval? What are some of the things that stand out about dealer pay to you?
You bet. It starts off with, you have everybody make a proposal. That tends to be very business oriented. There's the nuts and the bolts of it. Julie's company had a number of items that stood out that she had been developing, that she had worked a considerable time to make sure that this was a standalone product that nobody else could compete with at the time. You take a look at that, then you look at the partnerships that she had formed across the Midwest. If you roughly say there's 12 Midwestern states, she has 8 of those states wrapped up with each of those dealer associations putting their seal of approval on her. So I had mentioned earlier, this is a Midwest company. This is a Midwest feel on a national company. This is putting relationships on something that makes you feel like you're dealing with your hometown local business that is actually, nationwide. When you call, if you have a challenge, our dealerships are getting live people on the other end of the phone. Come on. How many folks are doing that anymore? If you can, and that goes back to the relationships. I've got a relationship with the person who is working on the phone to help me with the problem. I've got a relationship with the person who runs the state of Wisconsin as well as the rest of the Midwest and the owner. Those are the components that drive you to right here. And again, I got to say, the relationship feeds the sale, not here's the product, buy us, and we'll prove to you that we're there for you.
That is so powerful. Julie, I want to come back to you on the relationship side, because on the roundtable, and Shawn, you've been involved as well, we've met with a lot of dealers and a lot of managers who say, you know what, the payment processing, Julie, at our dealership is handled by the bank that holds the floor plan, okay? And that's the relationship we've had. They've held the floor plan for 20 years. And when we go to contact them, we have to call an 800 number, and we're on hold, and we can't get through to anybody, and nobody calls us back. Speak to us about the relationship, because I know we're all in the car business here, but we're really in the people business.
Sure. So, unfortunately, the dealer's not calling the bank. The 1-800 number you referenced is their back-end provider with the bank's name on it. Okay, so some of the acquiring banks in the background, unfortunately, are really large. They're definitely not dealer-specific, and they're not real great on quick responses. So I think that, the mentality that I use my bank, they've got my floor plan, but they typically don't have the technology. They definitely don't have the in-person implementations and support. Not saying there's anything wrong with the bank, but I think there's a layer that's missing that the dealers really need to be successful.
What stands out on the roundtable, you and I have done a lot of panels, and we've had people watching, hearing of other dealers, and the dealers have their managers and their office manager on there talking about how they made the switch, and now this modern payment acceptance is now embraced because you provide the training and the resources. Julie, speak to that, because fixed operations is growing. It's going to continue to grow. We've heard from the leadership here, exponential growth with number of vehicles and units in operation. How important is this going to be in the future?
It really is going to be important. With newer technology, especially mobile and customer convenience, you've really got to have all the bases covered. And I joke sometimes that dealer pay has all the things, but it's kind of true, because we do. We've really made sure that there hasn't been a stone that we haven't uncovered when it comes to payment acceptance in a dealership, all the departments, reconciliation, and we're still going. There's several efforts in development now I'm excited to talk with you about, with mobile, just collecting money, making it convenient. We're in a really good spot, and I'm really excited to get this into more dealers.
And do you help make the life of a Shawn Kingrey, or maybe even a layer below or 2 layers below him, do you make their lives a little easier with having your process?
You bet. And that's what we enjoy to do.
Well, to Travis' point, that I think so. He talked about the pain points. Sometimes I think dealerships don't even know their own pain points because they're just used to it being that way.
Yes,
they're used to that lady coming out every morning at 9 o'clock. Where's my money? where they don't even realize that that's just getting in the way of progress. It's getting in the way of a business.
Right. So, Julie, you talked a little bit about mobile. I know you're always on the cutting edge. You've got things working because you bring them up and are like, wow, we haven't even thought about that yet. Can you give us a little insight, a sneak peek in some of the things that you're looking at or working on in Dealer Bay in the near future, things that are bringing to market?
Sure. So whether it be pickup delivery, whether it be wholesale parts, anywhere the customer may not be in the dealership, with our DMS integrations, which make that transaction flow, we've got people out there now with mobile devices taking pictures of checks and cards to quickly turn those into optical character recognition, populate in the system, and immediately process the transaction. So you don't have the data entry, which ends up being keystroke errors and things like that could end up being
challenged as well later.
Yes, yes. And it's just so quick and easy. And the technology is almost there.
All right. Everybody, Julie Douglas, sales lady extraordinaire at Dealer Pay, is with us. Julie, if our audience wants to take the next step to learn more about Dealer Pay, what do they do?
They can call me direct. They can call Travis direct. But the best would be email sales@dealer-pay.com or call my cell phone, 314-578-3142.
And I believe it is all about the relationship. I can't tell you how many times I've picked up the phone or made a text to Julie, late in the day, late in the evening on a weekend, and Julie has the relationship and she gets back right away. So, Julie, really proud to have you here on the Roundtable.
Thank you so much. Happy to be here.
Yeah, and your team as well. And Bill, great to hear from you as well.
Thanks for the invitation.
Travis, good luck, and thank you so much for everything you do. Absolutely. And everybody, stay with us. We'll be right back here at the Fixed Ops Roundtable. Our revolutionary pop-up events have sparked a new wave of growth and innovation.
Become part of the brand that is shaping retail fixed operations at FixedOpsRoundtable.certified.com.
Hello, my name is Julie Douglas, President of Dealer Pay. For more than 20 years, we've been working exclusively with dealers to process electronic transactions. We've developed a dealer-specific payments and point-of-sale solution designed to help dealers be more profitable, productive, and successful. The reason our solutions have been proven effective is that we understand the dynamics of accepting payments in each department and can offer customized solutions that guarantees to exceed your expectations. Our point-of-sale solutions provide customers with multiple ways to pay. With a strong emphasis on both security and modern technology, we cover all aspects of the purchase and the last experience your customer has in the dealership. It's important to us that your customers are satisfied and your dealership is properly funded for every sales transaction. We are advocates for dealers and recommended in the industry. Let us help you get set up with a seamless transition. Contact me directly. Julie Douglas, Dealer Pay. Fast, organized, secure.
Everybody wants to be part of a bigger story. And to see something like this in such a big industry is a big accomplishment.
When I heard about Rapid Recon, I was like, man, that's ahead of its time.
Rapid Recon is the one software that unifies all the departments. You're going to go from chaos to organization.
The whole idea is to take 15 days average to get these cars ready to sell and take it down to 3 to 5.
It's live. You can log into Rapid Recon and see exactly where you are.
We're processing 2,500 cars a month. You need technology to make it more profitable.
And we know the pains that dealers are going through because we've lived it.
We get so much praise for our customer service, and it's because we genuinely care.
If you want to be as efficient as you possibly can, you absolutely should have Rapid Recon as your system.
We're changing this industry in a way that it's needed to change for a long time.
It's time to come together for our next speaker, the big shot of BDC himself, John Traver from Traver Connects.
Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. It is Monday, day one of the event, and it wouldn't be one without John Traver, the Chief Executive Officer of Traver Connect, a great friend of the Fixed Ops community. John, welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable, FORTSTOCK.
Yes, I love it, Ted. So good to be here. So good to be part of the FORTSTOCK event. What can I say? It's always a pleasure, and we're stoked to be able to share with the community. So looking forward to today.
I actually had somebody on the show who went to Woodstock who was there, and he's coming up a little bit later. So I was old enough to have gone, but I wouldn't have likely not have remembered. So.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. I may or may not speak to that today at, brief length. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, look, John, excited to have you. And by the way, you're tearing it up at Traver Connect. The phones have never been more important to dealerships and their profitability and their process. So with that, John, I'm going to let you take it away.
Well, Ted, you guys killed it again. I love the theme FORTSTOCK here for September of 23. And what's interesting, one of your superpowers, Ted, is you remember names at a level that most of us, well, let's all be honest, we're kind of jealous. I mean, you're that guy. You remember a name. Now, me, I'm limping along from behind. I see a face and it kind of maybe triggers a thought. You know what I'm saying? So anyways, as you began to promote FORTSTOCK, and I see these funky, fun, Woodstock themes, and there's our buddy Tully Williams, and I always felt like I knew Tully, Ted, from somewhere, I could never really place it. In fact, I went to the post office, just to check and see if there was maybe a face hanging up there that I hadn't. Yeah, anyways. So, yeah. And then, of course, being Fixed Ops Roundtable, you guys make everything fun and you come out with the emojis. And of course, Tully gets the glasses, the aviators. And man, it just started to come to me, Ted. It just started to jog the old memory. It was Woodstock. Tully, it was Woodstock. That was you. The glasses triggered. By the way, did you ever marry the girl? Anyways, yeah, I mean, it was wild, man. It was in that far back field, Tully, if I remember right. So, Ted, FORTSTOCK, we all appreciate you jogging our memories and helping getting us started. Tully, God bless you, brother. Hey,
God bless Tully Williams. God bless John Traver. And look at that crowd at FORTSTOCK. Wow.
Touche. Hopefully Tully sees this later where he can't, zing it back. So, hey, let's get started. So fixed ops, the first thing I think about fixed ops, and sometimes a nemesis in fixed ops, is the amount of moving parts. We hear Dave Boyle talk about how the EVs have fewer moving parts, and in this case, in fixed ops, there are so many metrics, so many things to talk about and focus on. We're just trying to get our direction. That's the compass. We're trying to find our way, Ted. And so what I want to do is I want to start you with a story about our late Steve Jobs, Apple founder, co-founder. Steve was there, as you know. His first tour of duty was 1976 to 1985. That's him and Wozniak, his partner in crime. I don't know if you knew this or not, but Steve Wozniak, the guy with the heavy beard, they're holding the Apple II board there. But Wozniak created the Apple I computer. And it was Steve Jobs that really had the marketing mind and understood how to navigate the space. And it wasn't that he didn't have technical expertise, but Wozniak actually created that first Apple I. Now, Wozniak, what's interesting is we know Steve Jobs passed in 2011, but Wozniak is still around. And Wozniak left Apple in 1985. He had a bad plane accident and he lived. Recently, he was interviewed and he said, as I look back on the early Steve, that one right there, he said he was young, like too young. He was fast, as in too fast. And he wasn't really, I love this phrase, regulated enough to create a good product, a successful product. So when we think about fixed ops today, the question I start with is, how busy are you? How wise are you? Who's in your circle? What are you focusing on? Is it too much, right? So now what's also interesting, so Steve leaves, Jobs leaves, and of course Wozniak's gone because of the plane accident. And so Apple continues on. Now at that 85 mark, Apple they were humming, right? Bills were being paid, cash was piling up, they were doing well. So around 1991, there's a group that, they were looking for new design minds. And one of the places they go is these leading institutions around the world that produce these talented people that understand product design. And they meet this guy named Sir Johnny Ive. Now, Johnny was there, ironically, from 91 till just recently, 2019. And then he finally broke off on his own, and he started his own consultancy. And guess who his first client is, Ted? You can guess. Apple, right? And so what did Johnny do, and why am I mentioning Johnny today? Well, he was a consultant through a group, like I mentioned. 92, he accepts a full-time role at Apple. He's named the senior director of Apple Design, super talented. His first project was the Apple Newton message pad, right? 92, 93, 94, great years at Apple. They're making money. You know, there were some cool things about their graphic user interface, their Windows type environment. And then, just like fixed ops, Ted, things began to change. It's 1995. This is a few years after you and I met, right?
Yeah.
At Gulf States there. And Windows releases Windows 95. And PCs went like this in price. They became cheap. And now Apple was pricey. It was expensive.
Yes. Yeah.
You remember that?
Oh, I
so
sure
in
do.
96, that first quarter, Apple reports losses. It was real close to 70 million. I think it was like 69 million bucks they lost in that first quarter. And they lay off 1,300 people. These are not good metrics, by the way, for those of you taking notes, right? These are bad metrics. And of course, Johnny Ive, being the creative guy, he's discouraged and he wants to roll. I mean, he's like, look, I got to find a new treehouse, right? So why do I bring that up? Well, okay, so that's 96. So Apple knows, okay, we're in trouble. Now, when Steve left in 85, he started his own company called NEXT, Next, right? And it was building this next version operating system, and they were super expensive computers. He was focused on education. So like, this would be for classrooms, okay? And it didn't do really well, but the Windows environment that he created, the next version of it that he created, did do well. It was useful. It just was too pricey. So December of 96, Apple basically buys Next, and they bring Steve on as a consultant in 97. Well, by April, they name him CEO. Okay. So now it's April. So here we go. This is where the message is coming today. So Next gets acquired. He's there, and Steve Jobs is on site. So in the first 2 months, he's taking inventory, and he says, I got to meet with Johnny Ive. So he walks into Johnny's design studio, Ted, and he looks on the wall, and there's 40 different products being developed. And Steve looks at Johnny Ive, and he's like, Johnny, do you say no to anything? And he sits down, and in classic Steve Jobs style, Ted, he takes out a whiteboard and he draws a 2x2 grid. And that's where I'm taking you today. This is the famous Apple 2x2 product grid. And we're going to go ahead and just let's learn from Apple for a second, okay? So in the top left box, he writes the word consumer. We're going to create products, Johnny Ive, for the consumer. Then he says, we're going to create some products that are for the professional. We're going to create some products that are portable. And we're going to create some products that are for the desktop. And in an ideal world, there's going to be crossover, but that's going to be our focus. We're not going to have 40 things going on. We're going to focus. This, Ted, has been their product grid for the last 25 years. It's still in place. Okay, now, did it work? Does it pay to get focused? That's the first question I want to ask. Well, if you look on any site and look for the largest market cap company today, you're going to find this company called Apple is number one. And the companies that are right behind it are names you'd recognize: Microsoft, Google, Amazon, Saudi Arabian oil company, all trillion-dollar market caps. But Apple, Ted, is the biggest. So I would submit to you in our fixed ops community that, hey, guys, gals, there's probably some value in focusing, in paring down. That doesn't mean getting rid of stuff, but how do we simplify this for what we're doing in fixed ops? Now, let's apply this real quick. What were the primary products? The iMac was the first thing that Steve Jobs worked on with Johnny Ive. He said, we're going to perfect this. We're going to get it priced right. Then they came out with the iPod. Remember those? The old Nano? Yeah. You still got your Nano working?
I still do, yes.
Yeah. I thought that was you down the street the other day. Then the iPhone. And so we put the iPod in the iPhone, didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, music's sitting right in there today. And then you got the iPad, and we're going to talk about that in a second. Now the iPad Pro, we'll expand on that in a sec. Then you got the Apple Watch. And then, of course, last but not least, the old AirPods. Okay, so let's go back to the grid really quick. So desktop, where does that fit? Well, the iMac fit right there. He started lower right corner. And then the iPod. And what's interesting is if you go to the Apple site today, Ted, you'll find that iPod Touch support. Like they understand how many are out there and some people still use them. Then you got the iPhone. And why is it hanging over consumer and portable? Well, because it straddles both. Yep, that's right. Right. Then this one I want to talk about for a second. This is the iPad. Now, when you go to the iPad, so go to apple.com and then go to iPad and take a look. This is what you'll see. Final Cut Pro and Logic Pro. So like when some people think of the iPod, they think of grandma and grandpa reading the news, right? And or getting their email. Like I see a lot of that around me. But what you have here is you have Apple boasting that our processor in this mobile iPad, it's a giant iPhone, if you will, today even. It straddles consumer and professional because if you want to do your own edits, your own videos, you can. It's a powerful, portable piece. Then you got the Apple Watch, clearly portable. And last but not least, the AirPods come in and it straddles and connects all 6 products. So, Ted, the focus that was one of Steve Jobs' favorite was the mantra was focus and simplicity. So that's where I want to take us today, focusing fixed ops. So the first question when we say focus is, what are we going to focus on? I want to see if I can't drive 4 answers for you, maybe even a few more. And then the question is simplicity. How's simplicity going to get measured, Ted? So if you say it's simple, but it's hard for me, is it simple? Probably not. Simple gets done. I'll just give you a little hint. Simple gets done. I didn't make that up, but it does make sense, right?
Makes all sense.
So I want to introduce you to what I'm proposing as our fixed ops 2x2 grid, Ted.
Ooh, wow.
Okay. So now I tried to make this as easy as I could. So if you can remember CR, that's the 4 boxes, CR, CR. So I think we need to unpack what CR stands for. So let's do that. So the first C, top left, is culture. Ted, tell me throughout each event, we don't touch on culture as we listen to our roundtable messages over and over and over.
It's top box, John.
It is top box. And I want to unpack what culture looks like so that we have some application. But to me, your 4 products in fixed ops, one of them has to be culture, because here's the deal. I start top left because the others can't happen and be sustained unless you got culture. Would you agree?
Absolutely. It's the foundation.
So we have culture in place. We got people, we're engaged. Then it's revenue. Look, money's going to pay the bills. Money's going to produce next month's opportunity. We're going to need revenue. Where's that going to come from? We'll talk. The third C, or the third box, the next C down below, low left, is customer experience. This is measuring how what we're doing is working.
Yeah.
Right? So some of us are just grinding and the food's not that great for the consumer. It's got to taste good because we want them to come back. Retention, culture, revenue, CX, retention. Those are the 4 product boxes I would propose for anybody that wants to excel in their market cap in fixed ops. So, we got our grid. Apple has their grid. Theirs lasted 25 years. Is ours a flash in the pan, or is this a horse we could ride into the sunset?
No, we've been riding this for a while, and it's just the beginning, I believe.
I do too. We want to get fixed on fixed ops, right?
I like it.
Now, let's unpack these. I want to just take a few minutes to unpack these if I can. So culture. The first thing I want to talk about is culture is, Ted, it's how you do what you do. And you see the golden arches there. So Ted, if you and I both own a McDonald's and we're say 3 to 5 miles apart, primary market area, like a dealership could be, Your fries are always crispy and salted properly. And fries at my place, well, sometimes they are. A lot of times they're soggy. Sometimes they have no salt. Sometimes they have too much salt. You see, we both buy the same fries. We both have the same advertising. But the difference for our culture is whoever's cooking those fries understands that consistency is important. How you do what you do is the very first part of culture. It's, to me, looking in the mirror and just facing it for whatever it is, good or bad or mediocre, but get a good assessment of culture. Number two.
And John, it's going to affect all the other boxes as well.
It does, Ted. You see it? It ripples right through.
Yeah.
So the second thing is this. A lot of, I had to start out with the compass and all the different touch points. And it's easy to begin to think about fixed ops as a what problem. Oh, I got to get CSI fixed. Oh, we're at $1.50, 1.5 hours per RO. Or we're, hold on, time out. It's going to be a who problem before it's a what problem. Yeah. And most of the problems are who problems. And I'm not talking Whoville, right? It's a who problem. What did Jim Collins say in Good to Great? He said, we got to get the right people on the bus. He studied the good versus great organizations. The great ones had the right people on the bus. The bus is your business. It's the journey that you're on. And he had them in the right seat, and he got the wrong people off. And God bless the wrong people, because they're the right people for a different seat on a different bus. It's really, it's that simple. And then the next thing about culture is reasonable expectations. Bob Gower, our COO, God bless you. Eat your heart out. I'm actually going to talk about your Steelers today. Take this in, because it'll be the last time, probably. All right.
He loves Pittsburgh.
I know he does. So, reasonable expectations. Look, Mike Tomlin is an incredible coach. Every year in training camp, he does the same thing. He does this message, and it's around reasonable expectations. And he said, look, I'm going to level with you guys. We have reasonable expectations. And that is that you're getting better every year, every week, every day. And that is on you to get better. If you were a rookie with us last year, don't think we're going to put up with the same mistakes that you made last year, this year. If you're a veteran, don't think that, we're not assuming that, you're working on your body, that you're working on your nutrition, that you're working on your playbook, that you're not getting better. To me, establishing a clear path, reasonable expectations that are achievable, that are in their control, very powerful. Steelers are always in it because of that. The third thing you'll hear from the Ed Roberts of the world, others that are really good at creating career paths in their organization. Here, Ed Roberts, he's got, we're going to talk about technicians and how hard it is to find technicians. And what we hear is, Bozard is experiencing a situation where they have a wait list because of the way they onboard people. I think I heard that right. I think I heard that from Arnold Gassita and one of the podcasts he did with Ed recently. That's amazing, but that's all about culture, Ted. So those four to me jump off the page. Yeah. Now, revenue. Let's talk revenue. So repair orders, ROs, right? But we also heard them called retention orders before. I love that. Was it Tully that said that? I think so.
I've heard it, yeah.
Yeah, isn't that good? Yeah, retention orders. So, maybe that is a mark. We're looking at that. We should all smile for at least a brief moment and say, retention, right? But we're going to need the revenue. So we start there, we measure there. But the next thing I would say is we got to sell to needs. I think we got enough juice. We just got to squeeze the fruit. We need more business. We look in the lane and there's enough business. But we start with multi-point inspections. It's still alive and well. It's digital. It's enabled, comes over a cell phone, but it still has to be done, right? Time and mileage. Why is this important? Because this is consistent to the consumer. This is English. When they hear the same thing, as opposed to, hey, and then we give them the bad news, but there's no process, it's hard for them to determine whether or not we're making something up or this is an SOP. We go to the doctor, we have an ache, we had an accident, they take a picture, right? Then they look at the picture, then they assess. That's what this is. Take the x-ray, communicate consistently, the revenue is right behind it. And of course, there's opportunities. The phone continues to ring. Catch the calls, load the shop, as we like to say, but the opportunities are endless for revenue. So now we got culture, we got revenue. So now it's about experience. And the way I like to talk about experience is, basically uncover the friction that's in customer experience. Look for the areas where there's heat, where there's sparks, where there's resistance, and we're going to add grease, Ted. We're going to add grease. This stuff isn't hard. You say, John, give me a couple examples. Okay. I would start by differentiating. And you differentiate. Okay, so if you're following the herd, Ted, brother, I don't know where to start except for to tell you, I want to pull you out of that. I want you to look to the consumer that's writing the checks and filling those revenue boxes so we can take care of the people that are driving culture long term. And that might mean you're going to have to do pick up and deliver. That might mean you're going to need to do mobile van. Just think through the process of serving that customer, driving value. It will come by thinking about CX on the regular. Last thing I'll say about that is always remember, customer service is reactive. It's the ante for this game. Customer experience is proactive. It's thinking about what they might need before they ask you for it. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
That's the delineation right there. Reactive, proactive, service, experience. Okay. Retention. Retention is both tactical and strategic. It's, there is a process here for retaining, and it's not just the RO. We're going to go back to the vehicles. You want to have products that are focused, and a process that's focused, and a system that's focused on trade cycle management. That's all part of service. That's where this goes. That's where the real revenue is. Why would we be buying cars that we haven't been able to put on a rack, and we don't really know what that car is worth yet? Well, we could be doing it while it's under our roof with a fan blowing, and we can know exactly what we got here, and putting a customer in their new vehicle with a process that's organized. So to me, Ted, the 2x2 grid is culture, revenue, CX, retention. And when you start implementing, whether it's BDC or it's it's a tire profile machine, or it is any kind of selling process, or it's personnel development, you name it. These are the process. This is where they fit, Ted, in terms of products and how we're doing what we're doing. Our deeper purpose, let me hammer this home quick. We're maintaining vehicles, we're repairing vehicles, but guys, gals, we're doing more than that. We are. Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett's partner for so many years, super bright. I love this quote. He says, listen, a majority of life's errors are caused by forgetting what one is really trying to do. What are we trying to do? It's not repair a vehicle. Every day, Ted, we're given the opportunity to create a CX that produces a loyal customer. Define loyal. Loyal means beyond even a repeat RO, it's a repeat purchase. I just want to say, when you look at the 4 boxes, culture, revenue, obviously CX, and then retention, you got to have the right perspective. There's a guy named Alan Kay years ago that said perspective is worth 80 points on the IQ. He was a computer scientist. And, if the average IQ is 100 and, high IQ starts at a 130, 80 points in the IQ, Ted, seems to mean that's a pretty important piece. So how you look at this business is critical. To differentiate yourself, it may be as simple as just changing your perception and considering the 4 boxes that we worked on today. Ted, as always, let's catch the calls, let's load the shop, and let's drive that 2x2 grid for fixed ops.
This is going to be a presentation we refer back to again and again and again and again in the future.
It means a lot to me. I do chew on this stuff quite a bit. I read a lot. I try and find ways where we can talk about and assimilate. I want us to win as an industry together. And there's enough to go around where we can all win. But lining this stuff up, man, it's a lot of fun. Thanks for having us.
John, thank you and Traver Connect for all you're doing for the industry. The phones have never been more important. Thank you for your charitable contributions within the industry as well. That does not go unnoticed. John Traver, everybody, one of the pioneers, one of the leaders, one of the pillars of the fixed ops and retail community, is the Chief Executive Officer at Traver Connect. You can find out more about the great work they're doing at traverconnect.com. John's email is scrolling at the bottom of the screen. Also, their phone number is easy to find on social media as well. And reach out to John, Bob Gower, and the team. I just met with him recently last month out at the pop-up that we did in Wisconsin. And John, a lot of compliments on the work you're doing and the difference it's making already there.
Thank you, Ted. We're a crowd of many here that are contributing, making a difference. We're not perfect, but we're all about pursuing. So thanks again for having us, and let's finish strong this year.
Yep. Amen. John Traver, everybody. John Traver, the leader in phones, here at Traver Connect at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Hi, John Traver here at Traver Connect. Thanks for joining us on our Service BDC video today. If you've already partnered with us, we appreciate your partnership over these past years. If you're new to us, we look forward to getting to hear your story and come alongside you relative to Service BDCs. When you hear the term Service BDC, the first word for me that comes to mind is calls. That's what really a Service BDC is going to be built around, both inbound and outbound calls. Those calls are going to load your shop, it's going to drive your RO count, and ultimately, it's going to tee up your next retail unit. One reason the Service BDC is so successful today, so important today, is it has a massive amount of opportunity in the form of those incoming calls. The cell phone changed everything. It's increased the amount of calls to dealerships, and as a result, we have to have a team of people centralized to take those calls. It's always been busy in service, but today when you ask dealers, they tell you they need help.
With only 3 service writers, it's virtually impossible for my service writers to load the shop effectively and efficiently in order to keep my shop full.
The second thing I'd be thinking about if I were you is, what do my calls sound like? What is our statement of work in those calls? Are we asking for email, address, phone number? Do we use a time and mileage approach to make sure we're pre-selling to any additional needs, or are we just order taking and then trying to take care of the customer when they get there and tell them we need their car all day? So what you want to do is establish a clear roadmap for how your calls are going to be handled. We'll help you do that, whether it's virtually here through our BDC or we do it with your team at your dealership. So perhaps you're like some dealers, when they hear us talk about centralizing the calls here in Dallas, Texas, they wonder what that call might sound like.
One thing I like about Traver is that my customers feel as though they're dealing with someone within my own store. I've had several customers come to my store and ask to speak to Chelsea when my people that realize Chelsea doesn't work there, she actually works in the call center in Dallas.
I have you scheduled for the recall. Was there anything else?
Let me tell you, you're like the most professional person I've ever spoken to, I think.
My pleasure.
Good job.
Thank you.
No, I'm serious. I'm being completely serious. No, we don't need anything else. That was great.
You have a wonderful day.
Okay, you're doing a great job. You sound good on the phone. So
Oh,
when I see Herb, I'll tell him he's a great person on the phone.
We're built for service BDCs, 60,000 square feet of workstations and personnel trained to take inbound calls. There's a handful of ways we can help you. We can help you with a virtual service BDC where we take your calls. We can help you with outbound campaigns, filling in those open spots in your schedule, turnkey, not just getting the customer to call, but actually taking the call and loading it in your scheduler. 3, training for your business development manager, for your business development rep. How do they take these calls? We'll bring them into our customer experience center if they're a BDM, or we'll provide online training for those BDRs. Leadership education for you. You're wondering, what are my KPIs? What should my staffing plan be? We can walk you through this in less than a day. And then tools, everything from texting, mobile payments, even in-dealership software to help your BDRs. So hopefully you see we're built for service BDCs. This is what we do, not what we talk about, and we hope to be talking to you soon.